On this third day of November 2022. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. We'll do a brief moment of silence in memory of Wally Smith. A lot of you probably met Wally in conjunction with the local public radio station, which is, I guess, WLIW, but it used to be Peconic Public Broadcasting. And he's been was involved in public radio for many, many years. He was sort of the face and the voice of public radio locally. And he was working in public radio since 1972, continuously, and involved in a lot of raising of funds to keep public radio going. I have some information about his. He passed away on October 27th, so last week, and his service is going to be this Sunday, November 6th at 2 p.m. on Shelter Island. And what I'll ask is that you join me in remembering Wally, and let's share a moment of silence in his memory. Thank you. Please be seated. Sandy, would you call the roll?
Certainly. Supervisor Schneiderman.
Here.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Here.
Councilman Martell.
Here.
Councilman Bouvier. Councilman Schivoni.
Present.
And Councilman Bouvier has an excused absence. So let's get started here. And we have a few items to cover. So let's, you want to do draft review first? That's what I have on my calendar.
Yes, please.
And that will let you go.
Excellent.
Okay. All right, so first item was to review the draft agenda for our November 9th meeting. That will be next Tuesday, 1 p.m. here at Town Hall. We'll also do it.
Supervisor, it's next Wednesday.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even notice that. It is next Wednesday because of Election Day.
Right.
We're closed
Yes.
on Tuesday.
We're closed on Tuesday. This is the last year that Town Hall will be closed on Election Day. That will not be the case in future years. So, but this year, our calendar does have that as a day off. And so the meeting is going to be Wednesday at 1 p.m. And it will be hybrid as well. And we have 6 public hearings. The first one is on the 2023 preliminary budget. The second one, to consider increases in maximum amounts to be expended annually in the town of Southampton special districts. The third is for the 2023 fire protection contracts. The fourth is public hearing for recipients of the 2023 Community Development Block Grant Program. Fifth is public hearing to rebuild the Bridgehampton Senior Center at 585 Bridgehampton Sag Harbor Turnpike, and authorized by local law the addition of 16 residential workforce units as per Town Code 330-8. And lastly, a hearing to amend Article 6, parking time limited in designated locations, to strike an inconsistent regulation, Chapter 312-3218, which allows for parking on the east and west side of Canoe Place Road between its intersections with Fanning Avenue and Argonne Road, which is a no stopping zone. Any questions on any of the public hearings? No? All right, then who wants to read for John?
I will.
Tommy John? Okay, great. So 1084, 2022 standard workday and reporting resolutions for elected and appointed officials. Let me talk about this for a second, because this one we tabled because we had questions. I did review the attestation. There's like a certification where you fill out your chart and the hours you worked over a certain period of time, and then it's you sign a sworn statement. So I know there was one that we questioned, and The individual is, they're taking personal responsibility that that's the hours that they work during that period, so. Other than that, so I don't think we can table it anymore. I thought it might have just been an error, but it does conform to the information that was presented to HR. All right? So then, the next one, Councilman Scavone, I guess is next, right?
Town Board Resolution 41600. This is to accept FM Global Grant for the purchase of equipment for the Division of Fire Prevention.
41637 appoints EPIC, Epic Insurance Brokers and Consultants, as insurance broker for the town.
41554, authorize agreement for email security component installation with CCSI.
Town Board ID 41567, authorize supervisor to sign contract extension for repair and install sidewalks with Long Island Mason and Concrete.
Town Board Resolution 41587, authorize supervisor to sign any and all documents for submission of request for qualification package to Suffolk County for the Senior Citizen Nutrition Program.
41590, authorize supervisor to sign contract extension with G&M Dodge, Inc. for vehicle fuel management system maintenance and installation.
41553, authorize supervisor to sign IMA between the Town of Southampton Department of Public Works and County of Suffolk to utilize town fuel pumps.
41558, authorizes me to execute a contract with First Coastal Corporation as it relates to professional services for the Fire Island Inlet to Montauk Point project.
Have they requested a waiver?
Have they, is it? Because they do work for other people.
I know they do other work in the town.
It's a professional services contract. And I believe it's reimbursable, so you're asking, do they need a waiver?
Yes.
We can check on that. We'll have an answer for you before.
Because it's not bid, you're saying? Or because they do work for other people?
Because they do work for others in the town. When we ran into this with H2M.
Okay. Christine, you'll check?
Yes.
All right, 41557, authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with L.K. McLean Associates as it relates to professional services, again, for FIMP. 41556, authorize supervisor to execute a contract with Len Marchese as it relates to FIMP. Tommy John?
41578, rose by Councilman Bouvier to authorize the supervisor to execute a second amendment to a consulting agreement with Peak Power Long Island to assist developing education, outreach, sustainability, and waste management programs. 41565, sponsored by Councilman Bouvier and Councilman Scavone, to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Young & Young for a survey for property located at 1040 Flanders Road. 41592, sponsored by Councilman Bouvier, to authorize the supervisor to execute parks and recreation agreements for programs.
41579, authorize supervisor to sign a license agreement with Audio Enterprise Group. 41643, authorize supervisor to sign an agreement with Briscoe Protective for 1976 North Sea Road, Conscience Point Marina.
41570, authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement with Michael Haberman Associates Incorporated for small claims valuation and process services. 41629, sponsored by Councilman Bouvier, to authorize the supervisor to sign contract extension for public bathroom cleaning with Winston George DBA, Winston Cleaning. 41588, sponsored by Councilman Bouvier and co-sponsored by Councilman Martell, to authorize the supervisor to sign extensions with Dry Stick Decal Corporation, DBA, Ryden, and Concept Print.
41635, authorize the town controller to purchase the necessary property casualty auto liability insurance policy. 41636, authorize the town controller to purchase the necessary workers' compensation insurance from New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance. 41546, declare item surplus and authorize disposal of vehicles. And you can see the 5 items there that will end up probably getting auctions off or
You
sold.
got a Crown Vic. 41639, sponsored by Councilman Bouvier, to authorize the funding for the town clerk's 2022 capital project TC 22.1, preservation and restoration of the entire historic highway subdivision land use map collection, H601.
41613, it's housekeeping, amends the 22 budget for various departments. 41642, amends the 23 preliminary budget for employee compensation and benefit schedule. Um, 41598, amends the 23 preliminary budget for land management fee schedule.
41595, amend 2023 preliminary budget for salary and related benefits for Board of Trustees legislative aid.
41596, amend the 2023 preliminary budget for salary and related benefits for the Deputy Superintendent of Highways.
Can we just, so Cindy, yours, there's a $3,000 adjustment to a trustee legislative aid, and Rick, yours is a 1,441, or is it 1,200?
It's 1,200 plus
Oh,
benefits.
plus benefits,
Yeah.
so 1,441 for the deputy highway superintendent. All right. Tommy John, did you do that one yet? No, I don't think, 415494?
We have not.
Okay.
Sponsored by Councilman Bouvier, Councilman Martell, to amend the 2023 preliminary capital budget for Red Creek Park.
And what is that one doing?
That's the skate park, the resurfacing, the pickleball courts.
So we're adding $1 million to the
Right.
capital program? Okay.
41597, amend the 2023 preliminary capital budget for townwide drainage.
And what is that, adding 100
That's 100,000.
additional money for drainage?
Right. He has 3 major projects that he's working on.
Okay, 41583 amends the 23 preliminary capital budget for estimated roll forward amounts. Okay, that's just on surpluses. 41581, authorize increases in the maximum amount to be extended annually in the town of Southampton special districts. And the numbers are there. 41582 adopts the 23 to 27 capital program and the 2023 capital budget. 41584 adopts the 2023 final operating budget. 41609, authorize additional funds for Sertelman, Balin, Adler, and Hyman LLP to represent and defend the town as it relates to Rose Hill Road in Watermill, New York. 41608, authorize additional funds for David Arnston, Esquire, law offices of Volz and Vigliata,
Bigliotta.
for all matters involving sand mines in the town of Southampton for 2022.
41555, resolution of adoption amending Article 6, parking time limited in designated locations to strike an inconsistent regulation, Chapter 312-3218, which allows for parking on the east and west side of Canoe Place Road between its intersections with Fanning Avenue and Argonne Road, which is a no stopping zone.
And that's subject to the public hearing
Yes.
earlier that day. Right, Tommy Joe?
41591, authors, co-sponsored with Councilman Bouvier, Authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for the Hampton Bays Fire Department Turkey Trot 5K on November 24th, 2022, from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.
Excuse me. 41607, authorized funding for rebates for IA septic systems from 2022 Community Preservation Fund water quality monies, amend the 22 to 26 capital budget. So I think we're putting like 800,000 into that portion of water quality. All right, 41603, recall and amends Town Board Resolution 2022-203, authorizing the acquisition of lands of Susan E. Shemeda Credit Shelter Trust Riverside for water quality improvement projects.
41601, resolution implementing a Hometown Heroes banner program in the town of Southampton in conjunction with the West Hampton VFW Post 5350.
41085, 2022 part-time salaries. 41585, accepts resignation of Matthew Perozzi, automotive equipment operator on highway. 40641, accepts retirement of Donna Bullock, court clerk and justice court. 41633, authorize town bay constable personnel to attend large four-stroke engine training. 41634, authorize town bay constable personnel to attend small gauge DTS training. And do we have any others? Yeah, we might.
The add-ons.
Three more. Tommy John, you got the first.
41331, this is a notice of public hearing to amend Chapter 123, Building Construction, and Chapter 330, Zoning, to add sections pertaining to the regulation of solar energy systems in the town of Southampton.
That was 41431, is that what you said? All right, Cindy, yours?
41648, authorize supervisor to sign catering contract for a holiday party.
41650, amend Town Board Resolution 2022-1043 to authorize the Director of Housing and Community Development to attend the Youth and Government Conference. Didn't want Tommy John going along.
I just want to know about
Yeah.
the holiday party. Are we having a
Seniors.
party?
We all do.
Oh, it's at the senior center?
Yeah, and they fund it themselves. They do fundraising and
Oh, it's gonna be at,
the Birchwood.
Birchwood, yeah.
Yeah.
The Birchwood?
Yeah.
Where's that?
Oh, it's for the
Riverhead.
senior services.
Polish
We'll
town
have
of
to
Riverhead.
crash.
Oh, why aren't they doing it at Canoe Place
It
Inn?
might qualify.
I think,
Because it's their,
at least
it's their money and that's what they
Right,
decided they want to have it.
All right, well, now they have a nice, local facility, so, I don't know, just wherever they, I guess wherever they want. Okay, so any changes to the agenda?
Yeah.
None, all right, Sunday, you're good to publish.
We'll get this done. Thank you.
All right, so next item, so I held the last of the, 4 listening sessions. It was pretty heavily attended, not as much as the others, but it was still a full room. I think, Tommy John, you came to that last one, right?
I did.
And, listened for 3 hours worth of listening, so I haven't added up all the hours. Most of them were like 4 hours or 3.5 hours, so probably like 14 hours or so in Hampton Bays listening to the community and learned a lot. The next phase is going to be these focus groups, community charrettes, sort of planning groups where we can have more of a conversation, sit around the table, look at some maps on GIS, even walk around downtown if we need to, sort of discuss things in a little bit greater detail, more of a conversation than just, just listening to what people have to say, but sort of bouncing ideas off of people, sharing ideas. And we, Frank's been working on an online sign-in for that. So I'm going to be, and you guys are welcome to join me, though we just have to watch out for quorum issues. Again, every Thursday, I'm going to go from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock this time. So there'll be 1 hour session, 4 to 5, then another one 5 to 6, another one 6 to 7, maximum 10 people. You cannot sign up for more than one of these. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to sit down with me for an hour. I'll invite planning staff as well if they want to be there, or if historical concepts want to be there, that's fine. But I really want to have more of a dialogue with people and trying to figure out where the consensus is. And it really felt at the last meeting that we were there was a consensus emerging. So I'm hopeful that we will arrive at something. We still have this lingering issue of the appeal, which I'd like to talk about in executive session since it's a legal matter. Continue to get requests for us to just end that and start fresh. But other than that, I've been working on a community survey because I do want to make sure that we're getting the information we need from the entire community. And we've had great attendance at the listening sessions, but hundreds of people have been through there. But Hampton Bays is 14,000, 15,000 people. So in an effort to try to get even more voices involved, I've been working on a survey, and I kind of want to go over that survey and see what you guys think. And we haven't printed anything yet, and we are going to make one in Spanish, I think, as well, too, or somehow incorporate Spanish language here so that those who maybe have challenges with English will be able to participate as well. But it should be in your packet, so if you can all turn to it, and I'll bring Frank up, and let's go through this. So it opens with Hampton Bays Downtown Community Survey. The survey below is being mailed to all Hampton Bays residents. It is critical that all residents have an opportunity to offer their input on the future of the Hampton Bays downtown. Thank you for your opinion and for your interest in the Hampton Bays community. And then we're requiring a name. So this isn't an anonymous survey. This is, you are putting your name on it. You don't have to put your address on it. We do want people's emails so we can correspond. And then the phone number is optional as well. And I'm not sure, Frank, why these first three are starred, but they're.
Well, you can't go further in the survey unless you answer those questions. Those are required questions.
Okay. So,
'Cause the feeling is that the demographic is, what, are you hearing mostly from people in Group A or mostly from people
Okay.
in Group D, et cetera?
all right, so I wasn't sure why they were starred, but okay. Are you a resident of Hampton Bays? Yes or no? Are you a year-round resident? Yes or no? In what age range do you best fit? Now, the only comment here is that we're starting with age 18. So this survey, we're not taking people who might be in high school
Well,
or middle school or,
Superintendent Clemenson had offered to construct a survey that he would help administer to the high school students directly, because some of these questions wouldn't necessarily resonate with a 14-year-old. So he volunteered to help construct that survey, if that's what the board wishes, and then administer the survey to that captive, sometimes
No,
called
it was
captured
their
audience of
was there-
students in the high school.
was there thinking in terms of, because they're not all the same amount of years in each group?
No, it's just somewhat arbitrary. They're close to, one is 14 years, the other one is 19 years, and if you live long enough, the last one is probably 40 years. No, I'm just,
Okay. I
I
mean,
mean, that can be altered any way that the board sees
I mean,
fit.
I'm okay with it. I mean, you could do 65 and older, but 55 is a senior, so that's fine. Okay, so the next question is, how often do you visit Hampton Bays downtown? Never, seldom, or often. Do you visit downtown for, and then there's a list of different things, and again, never, seldom, often. Grocery shopping, beauty services, which includes nails, hair salons, and massage. Tools and hardware, sporting goods, that's for you, Rick. Pharmacy, sit-down restaurants, takeout restaurants, business services, clothes shopping, seeing a movie, attending a concert in the park, appliances, home furnitures, antiques. I think the list may go on.
No, it doesn't.
That's it? All right, so, that's it. I mean, if you feel like there are other things people are going downtown for, did we do health services? Is that in there? Like
We
a
have health
doctor's appointment?
services somewhere else. What type of business would you like to see more of?
All right, but we
I
should,
think-
because people do go downtown, there is a medical offices downtown.
Yeah, like dentist, doctor office, that type of thing.
There's,
Yeah,
there's
so-
several dentist office
So
and
why don't we add-
medical offices in the King Cullen Shopping Center. There's several medical offices over there.
So why don't we just say
Wellness centers, too.
health or
We
medical?
should put health wellness.
Yeah, why don't you just make it health wellness?
Well, because we do have pharmacy, but health wellness?
Yeah, because they have wellness centers, like holistic centers there as well.
There's a sports rehab place, and there's,
Mhm.
Okay, so instead of medical/wellness, how about that?
Yeah.
Is it health wellness or medical wellness?
Health wellness?
Medical?
I want to make it different than going to Rite Aid
Change it
to
later.
get.
Okay.
So,
So I'll write medical/wellness.
okay. Any other things that we can think of that,
Janice is recommending that we do like, what is it? What did you just say?
Health, sports medicine, and then wellness/yoga.
so you want to differentiate like,
health, sports medicine would be physical therapy, your
More
doctor's office, your
modern
dentist,
medicine,
and then, yeah,
wellness
would
yoga,
be yoga.
because they do have those places there.
so you want to separate wellness?
Wellness with yoga, and then this is a recommendation from planning.
Well, there's also a dance studio there, so I.
Yep.
You want to have, there are doctors' offices downtown, so people do go to doctor's appointments. So medical slash, you want to just do medical and then separately health and wellness? Does that make sense?
But downtown yoga is like a thing, so you should probably ask that.
Health, wellness, yoga?
Yeah.
There is a
good.
yoga.
Yeah, there's a big, there's,
That's why you go down there. You should have it.
But now, if you went down to go to the dance studio, yoga dance, why don't we just mix that in? Health, wellness, yoga, dance? Okay?
yep.
All right. We could do that like the way we did beauty services, where we did nails, hair, massage. We could do wellness, and then yoga, dance.
Zumba, we
Pretty
can get
good
into all the
nail
different,
salon.
Other.
Reiki.
Yeah. How
So
about-
we're gonna send home an 8-page survey, right?
So why don't we do that? So medical, and then we do a separate one that's health and wellness, and then we do yoga and dance, etc. ETC, I guess?
Yes.
Other, okay. Any other downtown things? What about banks, financial?
You want to just do an other? Do you have
Well,
an
other won't tell us anything if they check other, financial
Well, is-
services, I know that,
We have business services, we don't have financial
well,
services.
business services is related, but.
Transportation, the train station? I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you know, how do you,
We could say public transportation, if you want to do that. But getting back to,
I mean, you could just keep going with this. You could add post office, you could, I mean, there's,
right,
Yeah,
well,
you
if
have to-
if I go
There's a
downtown
there's
to
a-
get coffee at the 7-Eleven, where is that here?
that would be like a takeout restaurant, I would
Takeout.
You
think.
could say
right?
retail.
Well, everything, there's too much, that's not gonna tell me anything. If I go to Chase Bank, to the ATM,
Business services.
that's business services?
Yeah, because, and then you could, that would incorporate too, I go there to use the UPS store.
Well, we do later ask a question about sort of what's missing, so let's move on to question
Well, I'd
6.
like to add one thing and kind of discuss it with the board, because a lot of times people will go into the business centers for the atmosphere, to be there, to be seen, to see other people, to hang out. And I think it's appropriate to ask people if they go down to downtown or the business district of Hampton Bays to to enjoy
To
the
socialize.
location. And I don't quite know how to word that in
To
a,
socialize?
Socializing is,
in a survey, Frank, because a lot of times, you know, the community centers are the business centers, and
To, just, what would you call that? You go downtown to just hang out,
socializing,
to.
social interaction.
Can you put that with attend a concert in the park slash
That's kind of
socialize?
specific, but I think what, you know. I
window
mean,
shop.
But we
often-
also, like, we haven't, well, a lot of people go downtown to go to the senior center.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's in here either.
That's to socialize.
Yeah, so, I guess so, and,
I
you
guess so,
know,
yeah, socialization, enjoying the public space,
um,
you know.
public services, those socialize, to socialize?
Mm-hmm.
To socialize.
I think it's an important question, but I don't know how to ask it.
All
Well, I
right,
think you have to.
I get what you're at, yeah.
Yeah.
right.
The more you get subject-specific with these things, the
Yeah.
more confusing general comments like business services become.
Yeah,
So I see
Right.
business services and I check that off, then I see
postage or mailing
know,
or,
for mail services or socialization, interaction. I'm checking number of things that may have the same meaning to me
Yeah.
as the survey
We're going
taker,
general and
but a
granular.
different meaning to those who might interpret that data.
And, you know, that idea of window shopping that you mentioned, because I don't think a lot of people go downtown Hampton Bays just to browse.
I think you're right about
I think they
that.
do that, Southampton Village, people will go downtown just to have a walk, maybe get an ice cream, whatever, but they'll go into galleries and bookstores and things like that. I
Well,
don't think there's much of that going on in Hampton Bays.
There's somewhere in here, and I can't get to it, I know we asked about the issue of walkability.
Yeah, so we'll get to that, so why
So
don't,
maybe
Okay.
it's addressed in another way.
yeah, and I think once we get through this, we want to come back to question 5 and see if we need to have all these things, but let's go to 6. Do you feel downtown offerings meet the needs of the community? And this, and I have it broken down into 5 different sectors of the community. Local workers, seniors, youth, tourists, seasonal residents. So we'll start to get it's a good kind of a sense of people, where the, you know, the white space is, like where the blank, the missing spaces are. What features would you like to see downtown? And this is coming out of a little bit of the listening sessions, of some of the things that people say they'd love to see downtown, but children's merry-go-round, outdoor ice skating rink, performing arts center. They already have a movie theater, but the people want it to stay, so it gets confusing when you ask it like this. Some people have noted that we already have a movie theater. Buried power lines, more landscaping, public restroom, wide sidewalks, outdoor dining, bike lanes, municipal parking lots, public art.
can we change this to say what features would you like to see downtown, both on, either on Main Street or along Good Ground Park? Because I think a lot of people have said, you can't have wide sidewalks, you can't, and they're missing the whole other opportunity of Good Ground Park, being the other side of downtown.
Right.
They're just, in their mind, they're focused on what's
But
there.
we sort of have that as part of downtown. I think people, a few people have sort of tested this out and taken that, and they have checked off wide sidewalks as something they want to see. So I'm not sure there's a confusion there.
But I think Cindy, I don't want to speak for you, but the idea of you're looking down Main
Downtown.
Street, you know, and you're not seeing either the street up by the railroad station, and you're not seeing
Right, I
the street.
see.
I mean, so maybe that needs to be like a lead in, like when you present this as your question about downtown, it needs to basically say the downtown area, including the unimproved area along Good Ground Park.
Yeah,
Because
actually, I
people
thought
are
about
missing
asking
that
people
as a part of
what they
downtown.
think is downtown, because that's really a confusing thing. Some people, you know, have been saying the diner to Ponquag. Actually, I think it goes beyond Ponquag. I think it's a diner almost to like the Capital One building, but
We currently have a
Certainly
proposed
to the
map
end of
for
the King
what
Cullen
defines
complex.
downtown. It doesn't go as far west as Jay is describing, but it includes the park, it includes Ponquag Avenue. Maybe the answer to that question is to provide them with a map.
Janice,
And
did you want to
label
come
it.
up here? You might as well
And
join us.
label it as downtown, and say, you know, in this survey, reference to downtown incorporates anywhere within that area.
Because I think, you know, from what I heard at the listening session, and I think is still being misconstrued, is people have this, yeah, I heard it time and time again, we don't have a main street like West Hampton because our main street is on Montauk Highway. They're not envisioning.
I didn't understand that.
Actually,
She didn't understand that either.
I'll say it again, maybe she'll understand it this time.
They're not envisioning the fact that they can have, and I brought this up at the listening session, a wide sidewalk along Good Ground Park with outdoor dining, with shops, you know, with
Right.
storefronts, with a little cafe. They're not seeing
Right.
that in their mind
This
because
has
they
come
think
up
that it's a different
A lot at the
thing.
listening sessions, people will say, you need to have, you want to open the Good Ground Park up to Main Street, that we weren't supposed to just come in off of Squiretown, that there needs to be a road, and that will create a view of Good Ground Park from downtown. And along that new street, yeah, you could have wide sidewalks, and you could have.
And also along the park.
And also along the park, right?
Because
So-
they automatically get stuck in their head and they say, well, we can't move buildings, you can't make the sidewalks wider, we're on Montauk Highway, we have no walkability because we're on Montauk Highway. They're not envisioning that
Also, they don't
secondary.
understand that the pattern book, like, if people then on Montauk Highway wanted to, say, tear down their building and build a new one, it had all kinds of parameters on how to get the wide sidewalk.
Yeah.
That was half the point. So we
Right.
can do that too later, like, as things redevelop,
I
but.
think the best way to
Zoning.
do it, although it's not definitive, we do have a map and a picture that says this area within this border represents what the survey refers to as downtown. And it would include the park, Ponquag, and the current east and west. And we can even have a question about the map itself.
I don't think we should do that. I think we just call it downtown and let them respond to the questions.
Whatever, I'm just.
Or you can start the survey by saying,
this.
this is a survey about this discrete area
Yeah.
as the central core business district. We consider that the core, and we do consider,
Right.
you know,
If you ask
downtown.
people, do you think the diner, which isn't operating as a diner, is part of downtown? I think most people would say yes. If you ask them whether Macy's was, they'd probably say no. So there's somehow, even though they're very near each other, I think that,
Oh, so they see the diner as the entrance to downtown.
yes.
The gateway, it's
Yeah.
like a gateway.
That's sort of where downtown begins, is you make that left off of 24. And where does downtown end? Probably at the end of the King Colin shopping complex,
Yeah, roughly Carvel.
Yeah.
or Carvel, yeah,
Now recently.
as the end of
repaved.
downtown.
It's beautiful.
That looks good, doesn't it?
It does.
So, all right, so let's continue on with.
One thing I think we should change in section number 7, it's small, where it says buried power lines, it should be utility lines. I can't tell you how bad I think Optimum ran the lines in downtown Hampton Bays and other parts of the town as well.
You want to, instead of.
Just
power-
utility
No,
lines.
it's a better
It's like a
word.
bird
Yeah, it's a word,
Because there's more on those poles than just
right,
power.
right.
All right, all right, so, all right, question number 8. What types of businesses would you like to see more of downtown? Home furnishings, beauty salons, which I don't expect to see a lot more of. I think there's like 12 nail salons. Fast food restaurants, sit-down restaurants, cafes, diner, bookstores, toy stores, boutique hotels, auto supplies, tools and hardware, gourmet food shops, ice cream shops, candy stores, clothing, appliance stores, stationery, office supply, computer technology, real estate offices, pool supplies, delis. There's more. Banks, convenience stores, bike shops, bars, self-storage, indoor recreational fitness space, medical offices.
Is
I
this the,
think
up-
if you're sending this out to the community and we're having a discussion about it, you should put marijuana dispensaries on there.
You think so?
cannabis?
Cannabis
Well,
dispensaries.
we are
They came out
asking.
with the guidance yesterday.
I know.
They did
So, I
that?
mean,
Oh.
we are,
Who did?
The state-
Okay,
the
different
state-
conversation.
Different conversation, but.
So how would
Whole
you
nother-
put that down?
cannabis dispensaries / consumption sites.
What is that type of use? If we wanted to say,
I think it's its own use.
is it different than bars?
Yes,
I don't know.
These are pretty specific.
yeah.
Might be interesting to have it on. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
It's an emerging issue.
Wait, do we have bars down here, or?
Bars are on here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
How do
So,
you-
I mean, food,
Cannabis dispensary slash consumption lounge.
yeah, but then you almost, somebody might be okay with a cannabis dispensary, but not a
So list
lounge.
them separately.
Well, is it
Consumption site.
bars, yeah, okay.
consumption center, cannabis?
Cannabis dispensary.
Cannabis dispensary might imply like a cannabis clinic, which is different from the retail.
Could
So
say
you put
cannabis
retail
and then have
cannabis.
medical dispensary, whatever the other one
That's a
was,
distinct
Consumption.
category.
Medical.
Yeah.
The medical is permitted
Cannabis-
now, right now. right?
Yes.
Didn't we say that you could do that?
But you're talking about retail slash
Retail.
consumption.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how many questions related to cannabis are we having now?
One.
Three?
One.
Cannabis retail slash consumption center. Consumption.
What if somebody is okay with retail but not
Yeah, I
consumption?
think that's two different questions.
Cannabis retail, cannabis
Cannabis
consumption.
Yep.
Cannabis consumption lounge, or?
Just consumption site.
And we're not trying to push this in this location, we're just asking
Yeah.
a survey.
Well, while
We're
you're
not trying to
asking
push
everything else,
bike
you might
shops,
as well.
we're, you know,
Right, right, right.
It'd be interesting to see
Well,
what the
you know.
public, I mean,
and you'll see, and then you'll see the age range of who wants it.
Mhm.
you know, but now
That's
with the
where the
fact
age
that
range becomes important.
this, but now they do have their name on this, so it'd be interesting, but out, you know, their name on it. I'm almost thinking we should leave it off because of the fact that we have everybody's name on it. And I just think it's,
But no one's
Well,
gonna
They don't
disclose
have,
their
they can,
names.
they can skip it, right? I mean,
They
that's
don't, they
not-
can, they don't have to answer that question.
If someone foiled it, we redact the names.
Yeah, they can just put
Yeah.
undecided.
I think we should leave it off. I mean, we're not planning on zoning it in any of those areas.
How do you know that one person isn't gonna fill out 10 surveys then?
No, that because their name, oh, if you don't have their name on it?
Right.
You're saying leave cannabis question.
I leave cannabis, so we're just creating controversy, I think, on the survey by putting it in.
We could send a separate survey out for that. I
Yeah.
mean, on our website, we could do.
Well, when we
like
do the
did other
cannabis
surveys.
zoning.
Why
we
would
haven't
we
even
leave
done
it
the-
off? We're not letting them make
We're
their
having
choice.
a
We're saying
discussion
that
about
we
it.
want the community to choose on. And, you know, this is their opportunity to say no, or yeah, or whatever they want to say. They can say it.
But we're not asking that question in any other areas where we're doing zoning related to cannabis. So we'll just
We're
have
also
Hampton
not
Bays.
surveying other areas.
Let's assume Hampton Bays says we don't want cannabis.
But Hampton Bays has areas that we are, it's not all, I mean, we're rezoning it, so it's,
Well, it's right now VB, so all these things on this list are allowed except the marijuana one. So everything here that you've identified is already allowed in VB, except this marijuana thing.
Not
You
that
You can have it as a
I
supplemental
just feel like it's gonna
question.
grab all the attention away from the whole survey.
Yeah.
And I just rather not
Okay.
even put it on, personally. That becomes then the big discussion topic. And you have people have their name on it.
you could blame it on us.
What you could do is put a last other category with a blank space.
there you go.
The survey will accept text. So you can put other, and if there's something on the list that people didn't see, they can add their own.
Or, but then we
Or
have
one.
to then record all that. This is somebody has to
Well,
data
well,
entry.
this is something that we need to talk about, how we're gonna record all of this data. This can be easy, or it can be
Well,
extremely
we're trying to set
labor
it up
intensive.
so it can be done by a bubble, like you know, fill in the circle and.
That's still an
The Scantron.
onerous task, because you have to create an answer sheet that's consistent with the format of the survey. If you want it to be the like we all remember taking tests in school where you had the questions and a corresponding answer sheet. That is fraught with the opportunity for error. So you want to make the survey the bubble sheet. That's not an easy task.
There's gotta
and
be readers that you can pass it through that
you-
can have it that way.
That's after you create this bubble survey that is both the survey and the answer sheet simultaneously.
That's
It's
where online
doable.
helps, because you can do the drop down and
Right.
just
I
answer
think we
it
do
and
the
it
police
records it.
reform one,
Yeah,
because
but I
that
wanna
seemed
actually
to
talk
work
about it.
well.
Online.
But that's where
Online,
online has,
because
is
we own the
superior to
Survey
this.
Monkey software, and it compiles the data in very elaborate form for you. You don't have to do anything,
Yeah, that
just
works
ask the
very well.
questions.
What are you doing differently about this?
Well,
Mailing
because
it.
Jay's interest is mailing this home to everybody. That's a piece of paper.
Got it.
That
So
someone
worst comes
either
to
has
worst,
to.
we're gonna have to hire somebody to do the data entry. You know, and sit there going, yes, no, I mean, But I'm hoping that we'll be able to put this in a format that some kind of OCR type of reader, scanning machine can
Well,
scan
if we,
it.
when the board finalizes a survey format and content, then I'd like to be able to come back to the board, show you what a scannable format
Document
looks like, because this is already 4 pages. It will easily be 8 or 10 pages when you put it into bubble format. And then what's the process for accomplishing what you'd like to accomplish? Pass that through a scanner. There just doesn't, recording the data is the easy part. Compiling that data and interpreting it in a quantifiable way, what are your means, what are your standard deviations between
And I can
questions?
tell you this, if I get an 8-page survey in the mail, I'm throwing it in the garbage.
Right, so then we
Not
might
doing
wanna
Well, can you put a
reduce.
QR code on it? So what if you just
To do
scan
it
it, like if
online.
you got it on your, say you're a paper person, you have the choice of filling it out, but also in the corner it has a QR code, you scan it, takes you to the website.
It's still 8 pages long.
Yeah, but you can click yes, no on the website. You know, some seniors are very savvy, most millennials
Yeah, I just
will
think
do the online.
They're not gonna sit down with a piece of paper.
I like the paper survey.
You
I-
can have the paper survey, but I'm
It-
saying you
it
should put a
just-
QR code in case
I
someone
think you should
opts
too,
to
and
do
give
the
people the
online.
option to do it online. I mean, even your jury questionnaire comes that way now. You can do it on the paper and mail it in, or you can click online, and it'll save us money in postage too if people choose to do it online.
To your point,
All right, as long as we don't get more than,
to questions, this is relevant, so I'm gonna add this. Janice mentioned, if we promote this in this format, this is just a draft for the board's consideration, it has a QR code on it. Now, this is relative to registration, but we can do the same thing. You can get the QR code, which will do exactly what Janice just describes.
Does it
takes
work
you-
now? So I literally do it,
It's not active right now, this
and
is
it
a
takes me
draft.
right there, and then I can just do the survey and hit
And then you
submit.
do the survey, and usually it'll say
See?
like, estimated time to complete the
that
survey, 3
That's
minutes.
how fast, if you stick that code on there.
yeah, all right, then we can create that as an option, as long as they don't then fill it out here and do it online.
No, it says right on it, it'll say you can only fill out the survey once, either
Once.
paper or online.
Right, well, it's, because it's gonna, we're only accepting them with their name.
So they have to fill this out by hand and then put it back in the mail,
Yeah.
like snail
Yes.
mail?
And then we have to scan
It's
it.
gonna have postage prepaid.
And we're only sending one per household, so if you and your husband don't agree, I'm just
That
putting it
never
out there.
happens.
Right,
Then I would be like, well, I'm going on
Yeah.
the website one.
And
yeah,
I could put my name in online, and I could do it online.
yeah, that's fine.
So I think the paper is just, it's problematic,
We
because
could do a
it's,
QR code too, but some people like paper, and I wanna make sure we're not just getting those computer savvy people.
are we sending one per household, or are we
Yeah,
sending?
one, we're gonna send one per household.
Well, right
But-
now, we just have the residence address, we don't have all the occupants of that
So you could say, if
residence.
you have additional people who wish to take the survey, or you wish to take it online, here's the
Yeah,
QR
we
code.
could do that.
Please have it
But
work.
back to cannabis, can we go back to cannabis here?
And then somebody's gonna have to take these and put them into that online format.
Well, the Survey Monkey thing online is easy, right? That'll
This
do it.
SurveyMonkey Online is easy because of the compiling of the data. That's what's valuable about this, how well you can compile data that means something to the decision-making process. There are other ways to do it, but other ways of doing it are very, very labor-intensive. And the more you have manual involvement in a process of that level of detail, the higher the probability of margins of error.
Before we get to cannabis on number 8, we might want to add fresh seafood store.
Well, you kind of have that up by the water, right? You want it downtown.
We have, well, there's the out of the blue, well, it's not really downtown.
Since
but-
we're asking.
Farmers market.
Yeah, I mean-
So are we gonna nix the cannabis question, or are we?
I think we should nix it, and we did do a survey once online about both those things, but I just think it's gonna add more confusion to
Okay.
the issue.
That's number 9?
We're still on number 8, but Tommy John is, I said farmers market, you said seafood market?
It is Hampton Bays.
Seafood market, you wanna add that in?
Mhm.
Is there a seafood market now?
Right, we put
Just in the grocery store?
$2.6 million into our
One down
dock.
by the canal.
Let's have
But
a
that's
mark.
really where
There's no
seafood
market
markets
now.
Out of the blue,
belong.
the one-
They should,
Yeah,
the
one
seafood
across the
market should
street,
be
right.
Yeah,
down
it's
by the
B&D,
docks.
by
Okay.
Indian
Well,
Cove.
they-
Yeah.
So if you have
All right,
like
so
little
seafood market,
downtown-
do you want to say
Mhm.
farmer's market, or?
I don't
Okay.
know if seafood markets are allowed in BB. They're really not, unless it's like a packaged retail
Well,
thing.
we could change
But
the use
like the way
tables.
that it is now is that it's up by the docks. and
Keep it by
away
the
from,
docks
You
and if-
know, you don't
okay.
necessarily want to mix
Okay.
like fish processing with,
The
it's kind of
processing-
separated in those locations, so it depends. I just want to.
Has a fish market downtown, you don't smell it. You can buy fresh fish.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Do you want to say seafood market, or yes or no?
Well, I think it would be a draw to downtown, you know, if it's a good market and people would come, you know, scallop season's opening.
Anybody?
I'm a yes, I mean, I don't think anything
Sure.
else is
So let's see
opening
what
in
people
town.
say, and it also depends on whether or not, whether or not they're actually gonna do it, architecturally
Or so
permitting.
what about farmers markets? I mean,
It's labor intensive, there's a lot of
and
ice
that may be
required, all
more
kinds
like
of stuff.
something we could add to question 7.
That's like an event.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's,
It's not a,
Yeah.
yes, and actually, I think we should ask a question about special events, because several people have said, we want to see we want to see like seafood festivals and craft shows.
What type of
That would
festivals
happen
would you
down by
like
the
to
canal,
see?
or you could do it at Big Ground Park.
No, people are saying like they want
That would
green
be
spaces downtown to have
I mean, we
special
have the
events.
farmer's market, brew
Yeah,
fest,
the fire
seafood
district
festival,
versus
like,
Would you like to see Good Ground Park
The
used?
firehouse.
Well, we
events.
have a goal
Yeah.
for downtown should be, second one on that list, making downtown more vibrant, creating arts and cultural opportunities. This, in
Well,
my
hold on, we're
mind.
not there yet, so.
No, I know, but to your point about special events,
I guess my question is, should number 7, what features would you like to see downtown? Should we add to that special events?
This should say families.
I think your farmer's market definitely goes in there.
Or farmer's market?
Seasonal events.
And if you're gonna do more events, I do more events at Good Ground Park, because people do say it's unutilized.
Yeah, but I don't know how
underutilized.
many we can do there because of CPF issues, but.
well, that's.
And, you know, the biggest events are, you know, because Engineering is one of the biggest ones, are firehouse related,
Mhm.
right? So they use that as their event space,
But they're only allowed to have X amount too,
really?
special event permits.
Huh. All right, so I'm adding farmer's market to question 7. What types of businesses would like to see more downtown? All right, maybe we can get to special events somewhere in here. Let's move on to number 9. A goal for downtown revitalization should be beautification, making downtown more vibrant, creating art and cultural opportunities, making downtown more pedestrian-friendly, lowering property taxes, improving property values, strengthening the sense of community, creating housing opportunities for young adults, supporting local businesses.
Should it say young adults / seniors? 'Cause, I mean,
No, very different.
very
We
different.
could ask a separate question,
I think we need a separate question on that one.
because a lot of people have said the housing should be for like the young people who can't afford to live in the community.
But then what if someone ages out of their house, and can they move downtown?
No, I mean, I don't know. We do have, don't we have a question later about housing? Who should the apartments be for? That's question 13.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, the goal for downtown should be, revitalization should be, is there something that, we do have socialization in here, right? Strengthening a sense of community. Do we want to put in, special events in here or no? Probably not.
You could stick it in with creating art and culture, like creating art, cultural opportunities and special event spaces.
Creating arts and cultural opportunities. I guess that is special events in a way.
Well,
Or let's come back to special events. I'll make a note and let's see where,
you could say events / venues.
we'll come back to special events.
Okay.
Okay, what are your main concerns about downtown revitalization? And here I've just tried to pick like everything people have expressed concerns about. You know, too many people, higher property taxes, more traffic, loss of small-town feel, too much profit for private developers, too touristy, expensive for locals, buildings will be too tall, there won't be enough green spaces, loss of community character.
So if you take the traffic there, I think if you're gonna add it, you have to add a goal for downtown revitalization would be improved traffic flow also,
Um,
in number 9.
Okay, improving traffic flow. Yeah, I think that's a good question. All right. Any other things that people, I think, are worried about with the revitalization efforts? Okay, let's go to
Not
11.
enough not enough parking?
There's a question somewhere where we talk about.
Yeah, you want to put that in, not ample parking? Or is that related to more traffic?
So we don't say density in number 10?
You say too
that's-
many people / density.
Yeah, too
In
many
question
people.
7, we ask about the need for
You might wanna-
municipal parking lots.
You might want to
This
say
is-
too many people,
Slash density.
too much density.
Right.
Too many people /
Slash too much
density?
density.
Yeah.
That's the hot word.
Too much
Well-
profit for private developers?
That's-
Yeah, it's
what's that?
come up. People think that we're doing like, somebody's gonna cash out. Like, that everybody seems to think that it's okay to have a reasonable profit for people, but they shouldn't like, we shouldn't
private
change the
markets,
zoning
that's-
in a way that is skewed toward somebody like over profiting from downtown. I don't know.
If we set the zoning for what people
It's a real
want,
concern for people have.
and
It's come
people
up
make a
so many
lot of
times.
money on it because it's what the people want,
Well, I think people could say, look, we're concerned that you're like basically selling out downtown to private developers. So I think
But the
think
thing
they were
about
concerned
private
with that.
developers is the problem, because some people have owned this
They would like
property and it
too
went
much.
through their grandparents and this is their last asset, and so are they a private developer? Because private developer and private property owner have two different connotations, in other words. There are developers, but there's also, we talk to people every day who are they just own property and it's been in their family
Right.
and, so it's not, they're not private developers. So, but what,
Right.
is it okay if they make a profit, but not someone who aggregates parcels? And,
Well, it's
you know
still
what I
a
mean?
private developer, so,
And we also know that there
It's
are
not
other
public.
communities in the town where some
It should be
people would.
private property owners, not private developers, because it makes it sound like there's these developers.
Right.
But there aren't.
Well,
In
people
fact,
do
there's a
think it
lot of
comes up, they
individuals
refer
who just
to-
own property.
at these listening sessions, people say the developer. They, and
think
they're referring to, one individual,
Yes.
maybe who has interest in quite a number of properties there. And
I just think that too much
I'm
profit.
gonna
I think
finish
there's-
my
I
thought.
think the
There.
concern
I don't
is
think it
that
should be
the
questioned.
private developer is driving the revitalization as
Right.
opposed to them. So maybe if there's a way to word that, it's rather, I don't think it's the money
that's what I tried
necessarily
to
that.
get at by
yeah.
phrasing it the
But
way.
that's like
I don't think that should be
absolutely
questioned.
false.
How
I mean,
can-
we
how
started
can we
this
do that?
with the
Perception.
grassroots,
But-
and then developers.
But
It's a concern
perception.
that people have,
Yeah,
and I'm
it
trying to
is. It is a
expose that, so
perception.
we can sit down and we can address it and say,
I would say private
why,
property
why
owners.
do you, why do you think this zoning is too slanted, right? Because this is where the trade-off comes. People
We're gonna
say,
try to
well,
zone the
we want
market.
these things,
Not a good idea.
we want these uses.
Not a good idea.
But they're not viable. So,
And that
okay,
should be
they're
explained to
viable if we
people.
add an apartment above it. Okay, but is that too much? Are you giving away too much to
But that-
somebody?
you're
I
not,
think you're
because
getting far
when
too
somebody
involved,
had to pay $200,000 for the parcel,
Yeah.
and then you could build one apartment and make out, now it's $2 million for a parcel, then that's the reason, so
I've
it's
been going
hard to
to
say
these
that.
sessions. This is a concern people have. They think.
I'm not saying it's not a
and
concern.
we haven't
It
done a
is.
good job maybe, but they think that the first zoning that we did was too generous to those who might seek to develop under that zoning. And that's why I wanted to ask this question. I think it's an important question because, yeah, if they say yes, that's their concern. We need to educate the public
Word
that
fear
this
of
isn't a
developer
giveaway,
driven.
that there
Oh,
are
yeah.
one or two people who are cashing out on this.
Can you word it like fear of developer-driven revitalization? That-
Fear of what?
Fear of developer-driven revitalization, because that's what you're trying to address. You want to know if that's your concern. Are you concerned that the developer is driving the revitalization? So it's fear of developer-driven revitalization.
I like it better this way, that
That's a T, I'm just,
too much profit.
It's just the developer
It's the
part,
money.
because the perception is there's a developer, there are developers, and then there's just,
Exploitation by developers, that's worse, right? from.
I don't think it should be a question. I think
We,
it,
we have other communities where this is happening, and it's a judgment call.
Too
I mean,
developer-driven?
Jay, if I could finish my
about
thought,
that?
because
Too
this is
developer-driven?
important. We're trying to zone people's profits. That's not our job. Let's create zoning, and then,
This
and
is a
get,
question
if you
about what
can
and
are,
come
get
in and make
investment.
millions of dollars off of that zoning, great for you.
this is a
It's
question
what we
about.
want.
We have to address what people's fears are relating to zoning. And I think we have to say something that it's, they're concerned that we're doing this for the wrong reason, to help somebody make a profit.
And maybe
And
that
that's
comes in
not what we're
lows.
doing. We understand that people don't invest without a reasonable expectation of return. Nobody wants to lose money. People will take a chance and break even, maybe they'll make some money, but I'm trying to get where the community feels about it based on these listening sessions. So if you want to come up with a different way of saying it, but I think
Why can't we just replace that with because the question says, what are your
To
main
development friend-
concerns about downtown revitalization? And a concern is developer influence.
Influence is a
They
little
don't-
That's not
connotation of
downtown
something
revitalization.
bad, like I
That's
just
like
think it's
getting
developer
yourself in the
driven.
middle of someone's.
Developer driven, not community
I-
driven.
friendly-
Developer-driven
I'm comfortable with the idea of
We're gonna set the
questioning too much
parameters.
profit.
Someone is going to invest in this community,
isn't-
and it's gonna be built out, and if we do it right, it will be beautiful.
Every
When
other
7-Eleven
question
went in,
is
it was the
about
same
downtown
way.
Well,
revitalization,
they
except
built
that
it for a
one. That one
profit,
is like, that the government is going to involve themselves in how much money someone can make or not make. We made it so that it was across the board, that no one else would have to come back for 10 years and redo it amount. Now, that amount is too much, it's not good.
how about
it's
too
not
much
right,
influence
but it
from
was-
private developers?
But that's not a goal of, a concern about downtown
I don't like the
revitalization.
profit word in there.
Yeah,
It just-
profits throwing me off.
So what are the main concerns about downtown revitalization? Too much influence from private developers?
Yes.
That's fair.
All right.
Too much private property.
Because we do
Too
get
much
that question a
influence.
lot, Jay, I agree with you.
Too much.
Too much developer
Ju-
influence?
Too much influence from private developers.
But the private developer part was my whole point. It's not, they're not always developers, they're just property owners and they're stakeholders.
Yeah,
It doesn't have
what's
to
a-
be
what's a
reality, it's
developer?
the
The
perception that he's trying
developer and a
to.
private property owner
address.
are two different things.
So question 9 and 10 are related. 9 is sort of like, what are your dreams for downtown? And 10 is, what are your fears? And I think that we have to address those. Like, we have to educate, and we have to make sure that, we're addressing the things that people are worried about.
I'm just using semantics, saying private property owners in lieu of developer. That's
Too
all.
much influence from,
Private property owners.
well, then, everybody, a lot of people taking a survey of private property owners, but you're saying downtown,
Downtown private property owners, they have too much influence.
too much influence from.
Not developers.
But then maybe that's part of the education, it's not really, if the perception is there to the
No,
extent
I'm
that you
just
have to
saying
address it, then you would
There's more
explain that.
private property owners than there are developers.
Too much
I know.
influence from
That's
downtown
the
property
reality,
owners?
it's not the perception, though.
Are we stoking fears?
Yes.
All right, too much influence
I
from
don't like that one
downtown.
either. That throws me under the bus.
Yeah.
I like the private,
Private
I like
developers.
leaving it developers.
I
Because that's
Who
the
are
word
these
that comes up in
developers?
conversation all
Right,
the
but
time.
but that's the misnomer, and that's all I'm pointing out.
But that's what keeps coming up.
But
They
the
think we're
issue that
doing
Janice
this
is
to
bringing
help
up is
somebody.
We're using terms for which most of us have some common understanding and definition of. The general public has as many different interpretations of that word as there are members of the general public. So it's one question out of hundreds. I would argue too much or
Too much influence from
undue influence or too much influence from
private developers. They want this to be a community vision. They've said that over and over again, not a developer's vision. They want us to develop the community vision and then sit down with the developer and see if it can be
But I
happened.
think we,
That's how it's supposed to work.
Well, that
And then
is
that
actually
developer,
what we
Janice,
have been doing.
and then that
Yeah,
developer
no.
would turn around and put $17 million into downtown to build
Sure, but
the
there-
retail and
I
apartments, and
totally
it's.
get that, but
yeah.
you're missing the point, and I don't wanna belabor the point, but the point is, it's not just these, we have so many parcels, and so many people call me up and go, well, what can I do if I come in?
Right.
And those are private property owners.
Or gonna build
They are
it,
okay,
build.
but the private property owner that's also
So,
a developer
Yeah,
is
so this
not
comes
They
okay.
down
become
to,
a
but this
developer
comes
once they
down
put a
to,
plan
but
in.
Janice, this
Period.
comes down to, if we get a lot of yeses on this, then that's something we need to address, and we need to put the correct information out. I mean, this is
Exactly.
allowing us to see that that's a concern of people.
Sure. Well, we-
Whether it's
we
right or
obviously
wrong, or the
heard
right
it,
concern or the
right.
wrong concern, then we can address it and we can give them the facts.
Okay? So we have that one, instead of too much profit for private developers, too much influence from private developers.
Right.
All right, tutorial, all right, I read these things, building will be too tall, there won't be enough green spaces, loss of community character. All right, moving on to question 11, how many stories should be downtown? Should that say how many stories should downtown be, or how many stories should be downtown?
Should buildings downtown have?
How many stories should buildings,
How many
downtown
floors?
buildings have? Should
I don't know, This
downtown
question
be,
has gone through many iterations. I'm sure words were added and left out in the transcription.
how many stories should downtown buildings
be-
have? Question?
yeah.
1 story, 2 story, 3 story, a mix of 1 and 2 stories,
put
a
4
mix
stories on
of
there,
1, 2, and 3 stories. So this is coming up a lot,
Let's put 4 stories on there.
and there's definitely a preference toward, nobody has any issues, it seems, with 2-story buildings. But they like the kind of combination of 1 and 2-story buildings. Nobody has said they want 4-story buildings or 3.5-story buildings.
But they
That's-
haven't understood, though, that a
But
two-story
some are
building with a
saying-
peaked roof is 2.5 stories. It's bigger than a 2-story building. It's not a flat roof. So in
Right.
order to have the building shapes that you want, you can't do a
That's part
two-story
of our
building.
education. Now, it's people are, they seem to be saying, not everybody, that some 3-story buildings might be okay to get all these other things that they want. But, if we're getting the vibrancy and things like that, if that's what it's gonna take, but they don't want too many 3-story buildings. So a lot of people saying they don't want any 3-story buildings. I've
They
heard
already
that.
have 3-story buildings.
Yeah, I thought it was 3.5 and 4 that everybody was arguing at, so I don't know why we don't have that in there.
What, 4?
3.5 and 4 stories has been the argument. Everybody that stands up says we don't want 3.5 and 4-story buildings.
So we can just add
So
it
we
in.
just add it there.
1, 2, 3, 4
And
stories.
then that's the backup point
A
from
mix of
there.
1, 2, 3 stories, a mix of 1, 2, 3 stories, and then do we have to say a mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4 stories? All right, so.
Well, 3.5, I don't think we
It's safe
ever
to
had
say that we're
4-story,
taking
right?
3.5 and 4-story buildings off the table,
I thought we were.
right?
Yes.
I mean,
But give
So-
them something to say no to. Just,
Right, but then are they gonna say, oh, see, the town is still considering 4-story buildings? That's
but
what
this
I
is
said.
going out
Right.
to everybody in the town. We've heard from the same 150 people. This is going out to everybody in the town. And maybe not everybody in the town feels like the same 150 people that showed up. I mean,
Well, and to that point, Cindy, when you go back to the listening sessions you were talking about before, and look, we did a sign-in registration. A high percentage of those people came to
every single meeting.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. You can't, this needs to be encompassing of everything to me, because it's going out to the entire community.
I
You
mean,
can't
we-
cut things off because 100 people said no.
We could say 3.5-story, but do people know what that means, a half story though? Most people don't. What is a half story?
Well, that's what there was, I just see somebody wrote a comment and said, have you ever seen an elevator with a 3.5 on it? And you
Yeah.
haven't. It's a 4th story, but it's not a full,
It's like a.
we know what it is because we
It's like an
addressed it and talked about it, but
We are gonna have the historical concepts folks come in and show you the as-of-right sort of drawings, and we can have this conversation at that work session, and they can show you all the different
I feel like
options.
asking if a 4-story is basically saying I wasn't listening to the community, that so far, from the listening sessions, because
we
this is
weren't
to gather more
considering 4
information
stories. We were
from the
considering 3.5.
entire community.
Yeah, and I think that's.
Right,
a fair
Janice?
point,
3.5
Jerry,
was,
because you know, if
it
you
wasn't
send it to the
4,
entire
full.
community,
It was
They're
3.5.
gonna be
3.5 way
people
back.
who
Yeah,
are
and they were
hearing
they were
about
set
this
back,
topic
so that's a
for the
4th
first
story.
Yeah.
That's where the
So
4-story
I don't want
comes
to put
from.
3.5, because I think it's
So just put
confusing.
4.
We'll put 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4 stories. We're not putting 5 stories.
No.
Please.
And then a mix of 1 and 2 stories, a mix of 1, 2, and 3
We're getting
stories.
too
Jay,
much
we
of-
were never considering a full 4 stories.
No.
We were considering, in our draft, 3.5 stories, which was being called for. I get it. I didn't argue back, semantics. But it really was a 3.5 story with that half story being set back from the road that you would never see.
Just-
Do we want to add 4 stories here?
I think we're just opening up controversy by adding 4 stories.
I
Just
do
leave it
too.
at 3 then, and
Well,
just keep
leave it at
that.
3.
Leave it as what you have.
But as people get scooped up in the argument, they automatically take out the lowest and the highest, you know what I mean, when they do a survey.
So you're
So I-
saying if we had 4, we might get more
I
support
would
for
say
3?
over 3, leave it at that. Let them
Okay.
automatically take that one out.
Then
Then-
you'll be accused of doing 6 or something.
How many stories should down?
They're gonna
They got 5
propose-
stories.
But now they have a step back to 4.
They're gonna poke holes in this anyway, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, do 3.5, because then we can educate them as to what a 3.5-story building actually is perceived to be and what it looks like.
How many stories? So instead of 4, do 3.5?
Yes,
And then can we do a little
because that's what's in,
explanation?
right? 3.5 is what is in the
It was
original.
sort of, 1, 2, 3, and the peak.
Okay, is there,
was
should
it.
I
And it
put
was still in
something
the
in
35
parentheses
foot
or what that
set.
means,
It was
3.5
still 35
stories?
The peak
No
was
higher,
less-
so you can put 3.5 stories no higher than 35 feet, if you really want to.
Nobody,
No, it's not.
Just
all
do
you can
3.5
say is
stories
if
they're
half
concerned
story
in-
for storage, or what is it half story for?
The peaked roof,
You don't have
and
to
you could
explain
use it
that.
for storage.
You
Just
know, you
find
could
out if the height
explore
is the
this
issue
question,
and then you.
Jess. I'm sorry,
No,
Christine.
I'm sorry.
You could explore this question in your focus groups.
Right.
I will, I plan to, but,
And maybe you'll
but if
get
we
some.
put in the survey 3.5 stories,
But the focus groups are gonna begin before the survey hits the street, so maybe one of the things you wanna focus on is focus group session number 1, 3 sessions, 30 people. What does the height of the buildings proposed for downtown meet your vision? And have a discussion around that, and bring that discussion information back to the board and say, well, most people were in the neighborhood of what Rick was talking about, or most people were in the neighborhood of what Janice was talking about, or.
Here's what I would do. I would leave the stories off of the survey, and I would do it in charrettes in the listening sessions, because then people can actually visualize what you're talking about.
No, I think it needs to be on
I
here.
think it needs to be on here too. So the question, I'm not really comfortable putting 3.5 stories down unless I explain it, and I'm not having trouble explaining what that half
What
story
do
is.
you say with a pitched roof, inclusive of a pitched roof?
Is this coming out
Parentheses.
after next week? Because you'll have the work session with the architects.
This is
and you
gonna
can
Yeah,
deal-
this is not gonna be out for a while.
So then, why don't you just hold
All right,
on
then
that
leave it
question
off, because
until
by
next
that,
week?
you know what, by
Just
that
leave it
time,
this
we've
way.
all agreed that I think there is compromise from the original overlay district in
Yeah.
the form-based code, so let's just leave it out altogether then.
Leaves the 4 stories off,
Yep.
because so we're not accused of considering 4 stories. Okay. All right, so now we're at, question 12. Rental apartments, oh, we're missing a word here, Frank. Rental apartments about, should there be, something like that, should,
It's probably shortened to make it fit into the.
Exactly.
no, but it's not a sentence. Should there be rental apartments above downtown buildings?
Just put a question mark after this statement, and that makes it a sentence.
Rental apartments above downtown buildings? I know
Question
it's-
mark?
It's really, should there be more? Because right now they are allowed.
So then put more rental apartments above downtown buildings,
It's
question
not,
mark.
should there be, like, as though they're not allowed right
Well, but
now.
we're talking, all right, so back to the listening sessions. People, particularly with this new road potentially leading to the park, we say, we just, yeah, we're okay with the bookstores and the ice cream stores, clothing store, whatever it is, but we don't want the apartments. I said, well,
That's a dead downtown.
it's probably doesn't work financially if you don't have foot traffic, if you don't have people, a lot of, people are saying they're concerned about more people, they don't want an increase in density, but what is that?
Mhm.
There's already, even if you don't do any zoning changes to downtown, you're going to have residential apartments and homes that are built according to current zoning.
Right.
So they're sort of saying, well, we shouldn't be really increasing the density beyond what that would be. So
But
we're
there's a
gonna,
reason why no one's building them, which is, it's too stringent when the parcel is so high in cost.
right, so there might not,
One apartment
the
isn't gonna
numbers may
work.
not work.
And the
So-
whole thing is, these are not gonna be guaranteed to be affordable rentals. As somebody else pointed out, there used to be apartments above just about every store downtown Sag Harbor.
Yeah.
And the rents got so high that now they're law offices and real estate offices, and they're not.
There's still some
apartments
rentals
No,
out there.
they
but-
are apartments, and they're zoned as apartments. Those were developed before zoning was created. It's kind of interesting, and the doors lead down onto Main Street, and they're coveted, it's,
Well, there's a
I
lot
mean,
of
the thing
families that
works.
used to live above their storefronts.
Yeah, Well, now they rent them out. I know my father
And-
was raised
And they
above the
have
store.
tended to stay fairly affordable
True
by
story.
virtue of their,
Is that
you know,
still
the
in
fact
your
that their
family?
apartment
Yeah, my
over
cousin,
downtown.
yeah.
So, and the market will sort of keep the rents, I think, affordable for those apartments, though some may be part, in a program, I think there's a requirement that, what, 10% have to be affordable?
You're gonna have your Central Park apartment over
Oh.
Good Ground?
Was that? You know, if you keep them small, they're likely to be a little bit more affordable. Anyway.
I think the word mixed
I think we need to have
use
this question,
should
should
be
there
in.
be rental
More.
apartments above downtown buildings? Downtown stores? I think we need this question because it keeps coming up
Yeah.
at the listening session. And I think most people will support having the apartments above the stores. So we can change buildings to stores.
And
Should
if-
there be rental apartments above downtown stores?
I don't think anybody had a question with that. I think it was their issue was with four-story apartment buildings.
Their issue was more about independent,
Yeah, apartment buildings.
apartment buildings,
Standalone.
or, you know,
Some people are
townhouses.
saying they want the retail, they do not want the apartments. I'm just telling you from the listening sessions, it's not a widespread feeling, but I kind of wanted to get this question out there because I think most people will say, yeah, there should be apartments above the stores.
And what if
So-
they say no? Do we really want to consider a
well-
redevelopment, a rezoning, not development, rezoning of downtown without rental amenities down there?
I don't think most people say no, but if they say no, but then we have to educate them and say, look, we know that you really just want the stores, but the stores, it's not, nobody's building these stores without the apartments above it. You
I
can't
think
have
we
all
should
that
commit
there.
ourselves to mixed use and ask them what kind of rentals they want.
Mixed use is an internal, like, most people won't know what mixed use means. I'd like to
I
ask
think
this
they do.
question.
I think it's a private.
I think, you know, it should be phrased, though, should there be
Definitely.
rental apartments above downtown
We
stores?
can't
Yes or no?
tell them it has
It's
to
a
be
general
for-
premise of what we've been doing, is that there should be. If people think there shouldn't be, then we should
Well, there
know.
already is, so should it say additional?
That's what I would say.
Well,
Because I thought it was too vague. I thought it should have said additional, and then actually even a chart of 10 to 30, 30 to whatever, you know, to kind of see what.
well, this
the
is for
level
new,
is. Yeah.
I'm talking about new development, but what about old development? Should there be rental apartments above, you want to say existing and future downtown stores?
There already is apartments above existing stores.
Should there be,
We're asking to downzone,
how about, should we say, should new?
but
It should say
Should,
addition.
should there be rental apartments above new downtown stores?
Should there be additional apartments?
They already can do it.
What?
They already can do it. You want to recognize,
They,
you
well, they
already can do
can't
it.
without sewers. You can't take out Tony's Asian Fusion and put an apartment above it.
Don't we have some?
Because you can't meet
retail
Suffolk County Health Department.
Apartments?
And it doesn't have a second floor.
What?
And it doesn't have a second floor.
Well, no, but you can't, if you built a second floor, you
If you
couldn't
have
use it.
the sanitary system issue
can do it.
taken out of it, right now, today, yes, you could
Okay.
put an apartment above any new building down in the VB district, anywhere in VB.
And are there currently any apartments over VB that are
There's,
down there right now?
there are, but
Right.
not many,
Right,
like
but there
Rite
are-
Aid
but
has
there
an apartment
are.
over it, you wouldn't
Right.
even know it.
And so does the other, on the other side, there
And
are
that bank.
apartments over there.
Mhm.
Next to
I,
that,
you know,
what
I
used
think
to
you're
be a
at,
bank
looking for too much in one
It's
question.
quite a few.
So I do think, you know, should there be rental apartments above downtown stores? It's just a generic question. I think it's a good question. Let's see what people say. I wouldn't change that. I'd just add that language. You take buildings to make it stores and put the should there be.
Should there be rental apartments above downtown stores? That's the question.
Yes. And then lastly, who should the apartments be for? Seniors, large families, small families, singles, couples, essential workers, year-round residents, senior residents, seasonal residents, sorry, a mix of year-round and seasonal residents. Did I leave anything out? Young people, I guess is not in there, or small seniors, large families, small families, singles, couples. I mean, a lot of people say they want sort of for their kids to be able to stay in the community. I don't know how you put that in as a question, so local,
You know, I'd like to go back to number
Sure.
12, because something's been kind of, a part of this, and I can't get it out of my head. One of the issues in Hampton Bays, and many of our other communities, is that there are people in residential areas that are putting accessory apartments onto their homes. Some of them are legal, some of them are not. And, you know, we are working on it through code enforcement, so that component actually is part of, at least my calculus with rental apartments in downtown Hampton Bays, is that we do want the people in Hampton Bays to live in Hampton Bays, and it's a question of, do they want to live in built-out basements throughout the community, or do you want them in the business district? And, you know, how does the future of Hampton Bays want to go? And I don't know if that's necessarily for this document, but it certainly has to be something that needs to be brought to the community. I mean, this is happening and has happened over the past couple of years, and we are trying to develop out residential living spaces in the community, you know, the way the community wants it. But we're leaving that component out of this questionnaire, and to me, it's part of it.
but it's not downtown per se. I mean, you know, the thinking sort of is apartments downtown means that people can walk to the train station, the post office, the grocery stores, that it's sort of smart growth, it makes sense, and we have a way to create a pathway for some of our workforce to stay in the community, and it adds a lot of vibrance. So if you have a coffee shop, there's people actually in the coffee shop, because some of the people who live above the coffee shop may come down. And so I think 12 is to me, a really essential question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take it out, and what you're saying might be a
I guess,
different
yeah,
question,
the
but it
one-off-
doesn't seem to pertain to downtown.
Well, it's more like giving the community a more global view to say, would you rather have rental apartments downtown or more units being built out in the residential areas in the R20s and 40s of
I would
of
think
the
that
area?
many people would say they want neither.
Right.
And in fact, many people at those listening sessions said, like, you know, people could live in basements. They didn't seem to care.
They didn't
I
mind
think
that.
I'd like to move past 12.
You might want to say
Well-
Hampton Bays residents only, because that seemed to be another,
You're talking about in
who
13.
it should be for.
Right, that's where I was going, then we go back to 12. But a lot of people have said, yeah, if those apartments could go to local people, we see this all the time. And, you know, if some of like the kids, when they graduate from college, whatever it is, and they want to come back to the community, they can't. It's interesting, if you ask the question, you might see a lot of yeses. But
How do
I
you-
don't know that that's something that we can actually
Yeah,
deliver.
But what's,
And how do you
and what's
do that?
local, I mean,
Yeah.
when I couldn't afford to buy in Southampton Village, so I bought in Hampton Bays. Like,
Right.
Or I live in Flanders and there's a better housing
Yeah,
opportunity in one of
you're
the
still in the
storefronts
town.
in Hampton Bays, so I'm gonna move. Am I gonna be
You're still local.
prohibited from doing that because I'm
See,
not a
that's
Hampton
what-
Bays resident?
What about, there's nothing about, we have seniors, but there's nothing about young people on this list.
Well, we have a question.
It should have young adults and business employees for those, because a lot of places now, especially restaurants, are renting to their employees.
It also just
To the
says essential
apartment
workers, but
before-
what about any worker?
Yeah.
Like anyone who works should
Right,
be,
essential work, okay, so we have a couple things that you guys want to add. So one is young adults.
And it may be repetitive with singles and couples, but I think it clarifies.
So you, was it people who work in Hampton Bays? People who work downtown?
Yeah,
That's okay.
business employees, in other words, above your
local
business.
business employees.
Oh, local business employees.
Why just business?
All right, so we're adding both of those to 13.
Is,
All right, and then
what
14,
about people who work in the schools or the,
well, we have
medical?
teachers, nurses.
well, when you say local business employees, to question number 13, which I thought we were adding something.
Local
to.
employees.
I have on 13, we're adding young adults and local business employees. But you wanted to add something else, right?
The
Well, I
school's
think
not a
it's-
business.
What if I'm employed by the school?
Well,
I'm
then
not.
there says essential workers, teachers, nurses, et cetera.
Well,
Does that cover that?
I only have two things. Young,
As an
Oh.
addition, but it's already in there.
you're talking about essential workers would cover that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could be a nurse at the local hospital, you know, work in Hampton Bays, but you're an essential worker. So, all right, and then, I mean, we could ask about like fire, or whatever, fire and ambulance volunteers,
First responders.
first responders.
Well, you can add that to the essential
That's their
workers list.
essential workers,
Yeah, so you want to add that to
Teachers,
the,
nurses, first responders, et cetera.
do people know what first responders are?
Medical,
I don't know.
EMT, fire,
I
you can
think
say
most
that.
people know what that
Volunteer
means.
first responders.
I think most people understand what first responders
Okay.
are.
I've noticed a
Does
bit of
everybody
a
agree it should say first
confusion between
responders,
fire,
not
volunteer fire and
fire
ambulance and
ambulance?
police.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, and then, should the town continue to, this is sort of the threshold question. Originally, this was sort of the first question, but it was phrased differently. Should the town continue to focus on improving downtown Hampton Bays? Originally, when I did it, it was, should the town work to revitalize downtown Hampton Bays, yes or no? And there was so much confusion about what the word revitalization meant that, like, people were like, and that's why there's now a question about what do you think revitalization should include? Because there were people like, yeah, I think you should focus on cleaning it up. You should focus on awnings and burying power lines and beautification, but not adding more apartments. So there was this big, I don't know, this confusion about what revitalization meant. So I moved it to the end of the survey. It was the first question, and now it says, should the town continue to focus on improving downtown Hampton Bays? Which is sort of this threshold question, because if people feel, you know what, we like it just the way it is, just to stop, don't change it. I've asked this question now and to a number of rooms, and overwhelmingly, and we're talking about, people say, yes, they do want the town to do something. They don't want us to walk away. They don't want us to give up. They do want revitalization, but they want us to figure out what it's gonna look like with the community. There are some people who adamantly feel we should walk away and do nothing. But by far, the majority of people want something. So they want some investment, they want some beautification, they want some, that vibrancy, and they're just not sure how big that scale should be and where it should be, and, how tall. They're concerned about all those other things, about density and things like that. But maybe they want more special events, but they don't want the housing. Maybe they want housing, but only for certain people. So I think it's a good threshold question. If people come back, I mean, this gives us sort of if everybody says no, the town should not focus on this issue, I think we're done, right? Okay, we got a lot of other things to do. The bulk of the people don't want us to do anything, let's not do anything, leave zoning alone. What they may not understand, though, is there is zoning downtown, even though people haven't invested lately in those properties, and there's probably a reason for that. I can't promise if we do nothing that people won't invest and build it out according to zoning, and they might get something that's very different than what they were hoping for. So,
I have a feeling the survey is gonna look a lot different than the listening sessions. There's like, what, over 14,000 people in Hampton Bays?
yeah,
And you've been hearing from 100 to 150 of them?
yeah, and
So, it's there's a lot of people that haven't
and a lot of
weighed
those
in yet.
100 do talk to each other, on
That's
same social media platforms and things like that,
As
so.
one gentleman said at one of the listening sessions, Jay, I'm sure you remember, I think he was an attorney, and he spoke to issues that were a concern to him that he didn't see reflected in the concerns by other members of they weren't local business owners necessarily. He was a guy in his early 40s. He had relocated from another popular hamlet because he thought he had better choices in Hampton Bays. You didn't hear a lot of people who had the opportunity to express that perspective.
Right. Well, I was accused of making a disparaging remark because I said at one of the listening sessions that we're still not hearing all the voices of Hampton Bays, that there's a significant number of people coming, but they tend to be of a similar demographic. And that apparently was a disparaging remark according to one individual. But it is true that, most of the people are of a similar demographic in terms of, age, in terms of ethnicity,
In the listening session.
at the listening sessions. And their voices are clearly very important, and they are taking the time to come out. We have to sort of go out of our way to sort of expand that, to try to make sure that we're getting information from a group that is more similar to the actual composition of Hampton Bays.
Yeah, no, I think the survey, and I think some of the people who are most vocal about their interests and concerns about Hampton Bays are supportive of a community-wide survey.
I did find, though,
I
at
think
the
they see
listening
some
session, when there was an occasional young person who came out, the group was really very interested in what they had to say.
Yeah.
Very interested. Because it was sort of a different perspective. And there were a
Absolutely.
few people who grew up in Hampton Bays and now were getting ready to graduate or in college, and they really want to come back, and they feel like there's no pathway. And they seem to want fun things to do downtown. And one person said, like, a lot of the people who were there, like, they had their glory day, in Hampton Bays. They had the nightclubs and the parties and all the things that Hampton Bays used to have, and a lot of memories, but they want to enjoy the community too in their own ways, and, shutting the door to the future is leaving them out. So, and doesn't mean we're bringing nightclubs back, but it was an interesting perspective.
Well,
So question 14.
And that's why I think reaching out to some young people is a good thing, and seeing what it is they want.
Yeah, I hope they fill this survey out.
Because you did have some people say, like, oh, we want a roller rink. Not the young people, the older folks.
Because they had
saying
one there
we-
years ago.
And we don't even, right, and they think that would be something they can do for the young, and that might be a really good thing for the young people. But I'd like to sort of hear from the young people what they want, if they want, I don't know, more of an athletic facility, or, laser tag, or air trampoline, or who knows, skate park. I don't know what they want, but I don't want to be too presumptive in saying this is what they want.
Tommy
So
John,
what's
you
the
have-
reasoning why, thank you, what was the reasoning why this question was moved to the end? Because when we
Should be
first
the
started
first
about it, I
question.
was saying this should be near the beginning.
Should be the first question you get asked.
So what I guess I was thinking is, you have to ask it almost like twice, right? And once in the beginning, like, once you've gone through the survey and you've thought about all these things, if you answer in the beginning, and you might say no,
You're right.
and then revitalization means beautification, revitalization means walkability, yes, you should work on these things. So that's why I moved it to the end,
Hi.
right? Because I thought by the time you get to the end of the survey, right, you've gone through this sort of thought process. That's
I would be concerned that people don't get there. They go through the survey, it's 8 pages.
Well,
They
it
stop
would-
on
Me and
page
you
4
toss it.
because they have to do their laundry.
It
You
will
know,
be in
I-
bubble format. It'll
Because
be-
people
it'll be
live
a
their
lot of
lives.
pages.
Huh?
I'm sorry, Tommy John,
Yeah.
to answer your question, when we convert it to a bubble response format, that takes up more space. Same number of questions, but it's going to go on for minimally 8 pages.
So I was thinking question 5, put it as question 5. Should the town of Southampton continue to focus on improving downtown Hampton Bays? I'm sure that overwhelmingly the answer will be yes. And it's an important question that we need answered.
Well,
I like it after they've thought about,
I think if you've got to question 5, you're invested and you're gonna finish it.
yeah, I
Well, question 5 is, are you a resident of Hampton Bays? Are you a year-round
I think
resident,
there's
your
some
age?
value to the perspective that Jay
I do too.
shared with regard to
It
the
being at the
survey
end.
taking itself provides an education for the survey taker.
Mhm.
And based on some of the comments that we hear at these 4 meetings that Jay already had, there's some people whose view, it's not incorrect, but it's somewhat myopic.
Right.
And having taken the survey might broaden that view a little bit. So the response to this question has a little education behind it, you know?
Right.
And remember, there are, of those 14,000 people, I would say there's probably 13,000 of them who don't know a lot about what we're questioning here.
And taking the survey is going to be self-selecting for the people who really don't want,
Yeah.
they may not want to take the survey and get to the end question, which is the essential question for them.
Well, but we can
Let's face
tell
it,
that.
if somebody's taking the survey, they're saying, yes, I am interested in this,
But-
and I care enough
and
to take.
some may get, to your point,
Okay.
the survey
We'll leave it.
instrument.
What if
I
we
don't
put it
wanna,
twice?
you know,
What if we put it in the
it's- sorry,
beginning and
just
then
a
again
good
at the
point.
end?
I just
Differently,
thought
like-
it should be in the beginning,
Are
and
you-
if we
What
don't
if we
want
put
it.
it at the
you
beginning again and
satis-
again at the end?
The-
What's that?
What if we put it at the beginning and then again at the end?
Maybe slightly ask it maybe different.
Yeah.
Like,
It's fine.
does,
Look, I don't want
are
to
you happy
necessarily
with the
convince you all.
current
I just think it
state
should be in
of
the
Hampton
beginning.
Bays downtown? Something like that.
Well, that could be the first question, and then the last question could be
Should the
the,
town continue
Yeah.
on working toward
Or to
improving?
something to the effect, does the
I think that's a good way to do it.
does downtown Hampton?
Are you satisfied with the current state of
Well,
Hampton Bays downtown?
Same thing, different words. Does downtown Hampton Bays meet the community's needs?
Well, that I have a question on, in a million
Yeah.
different ways. What needs is it meeting?
But that's
So
what
I'm
makes for
thinking
a
of
good
more
survey.
of the generic question is, are you satisfied? I'd say, are you happy? But I think, are you satisfied with the
That's fine.
current state of Hampton Bays downtown?
I think that's a
Worded
good
that
way to
way, it
start,
could
and
go
then at the
closer to
end,
the beginning.
kind of a happy medium. Because if you say you're happy with it, then there's no need for you to continue on, right?
Well, yeah.
So are you satisfied? Is that the right word?
Yeah,
With the current state of downtown Hampton Bays?
yep. And if they say yes, then there's no need for them to continue.
So that would be four,
They
that
still
was,
might like it, even though they like it now, they might still like improvements, I mean. you know.
It's like the IRS forms, it's like, stop, you do not need to.
so
Skip to
that's,
number four.
so that's a yes or no, or unsure, right?
That kind of asks if people like their home community.
Well, some of
And
them
people like
don't,
their
some
own
of them love it.
communities.
And if
Yeah.
you listen to the listening session, there were people that were like, it's great, it just needs coat paint. You know,
Well,
like,
but, yeah, that's true, but I think to Rick's point, at least from my interpretation of what I heard, which is subjective, leave it alone, but it'd be nice if we had wider sidewalks. Leave it alone, but it'd be nice if we had a cafe out on the street.
Right.
You know, leave it alone if we had an island in the middle of Montauk Highway that slowed down traffic, that would be nice too.
Right.
You know, it's that kind of.
I'd rather almost want to know if they realize that there's actually an attempt by the town to help revitalize downtown.
Right.
Most people will probably say no.
They might not even be aware of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
At all. So we're adding, before question 4, this becomes the new question 4, is are you satisfied with the current state of downtown Hampton Bays? Yes, no, or unsure?
it's a fair question.
But what about Rick's suggestion, which I think makes a lot of sense? Are you aware of the efforts the town is making to continue to improve downtown Hampton Bays?
Yeah, I mean, this way you know if they even know about the current plan before
Because
they
I think that
answer
would
this
be,
question.
you've got 5,000 people return the survey.
That's a good question to ask.
I'd say, are you-
And 3,000 of them tell you, no, I wasn't
I
aware
would
of the
phrase it
town.
differently, though. Are you aware that town is looking to improve downtown Hampton Bays? Because, or are you aware that town is considering improvements to downtown Hampton Bays?
I'm over the revitalization word, because that seemed to be too big a target.
Mhm.
I'm all for improvements, so however we word it.
Or are you aware
Rezoning
that the
downtown.
town
Like,
is?
we're not making the actual,
We're
we're making some
rezoning.
improvements, like we're doing like the Good
But
Grove
we're
Park bike
rezoning,
path.
we're looking to rezone Hampton Bays
really-
to allow for different uses
To motivate improvements in the downtown.
and allow for different uses.
Are you aware aware the town is
Facilitate.
considering changes to downtown Hampton Bays?
No, it's looking, are you aware that the town is attempting to rezone the downtown area?
I don't,
I like the rezone
I
part.
don't like that either.
That's what
Are
we're
you
doing.
aware the town is looking
Or you might keep it VB and just leave it at that.
looking to improve downtown?
But we're not making the improvements. I think that needs to be clear, because people thought that we could make shop owners paint their storefronts and do things, and we could pay for I mean, it's, when you say we are looking to improve downtown, we are not looking to improve downtown.
To improve
We are looking to
zoning?
facilitate
Can you look to
improvements
improve
downtown.
zoning?
Or create
or-
opportunities
Yes.
to improve downtown.
Are you aware the town is considering changes to
Facilitate.
foster improvements to downtown?
You said it before.
Considering-
What did you say before?
I don't remember.
We started off on the right.
Ways to help improve,
Is-
ways to help property owners,
Considering ways,
God forbid, call it a property owner, but it is
It's
them.
working to create
that we're helping.
opportunities
How about this?
to
Are you-
improve downtown.
are you aware the town is considering ways to improve downtown? Question
Yeah.
mark. How's that?
Simple enough.
Say again, Jake?
I do
Are
like
you-
the word rezoning in there, so they know.
I
Well,
don't,
ways, right? It could be many different ways.
Just
This is
throwing it
the
out.
because
zone
we're
is
not
only one
necessarily gonna
way.
change the zoning, that's one possibility, so that's why I like ways. Are you aware the town is considering, should we say different ways to improve downtown, or just considering ways to improve downtown?
Different
New
ways?
New ways? Or are you
New,
aware the town is
different.
considering new ways to improve downtown, or considering,
You all understand, like, the questions we're
Considering
having and the
options.
way that we're wording
Options.
these questions,
Options.
we're more or less steering things along a path, like,
Well, you
Considering
are
options?
considering
Yeah.
options.
Rather
because then it
than-
comes out to, well, you weren't honest, and you didn't say you were gonna rezone, and you
Yeah, but
didn't.
different-
you know what I
different
mean?
You're
Like,
options.
considering all your options.
Different options could be
You first get to
anything.
what you want, then figure out how to get there. That's the
are
idea
you aware
here.
the town is considering options to improve downtown? How does that feel?
Sounds fair.
I think we should put 16 at number 5, but, you know. Hey,
We're putting
yeah, I
it,
know, I know what we're
We're
doing.
asking it twice.
it's two different ways.
All right,
I know.
so now, so the question number 4 is now, are you satisfied with the current state of downtown Hampton Bays? Question 5 is, are you aware the town is considering options to improve downtown Hampton Bays? And then, so number 4 becomes number 6, and so on, right? And then we've added to what used to be 5, medical, health, wellness, including yoga, dance, et cetera, public
Which is
transportation.
adding to that inventory
Yes.
list, right?
Public transportation and to socialize with others?
I just put socializing interaction.
Socializing interaction? What do you like better, to socialize with others
Or
or
social- social.
Socialization, interaction, I don't know.
Social interaction is what.
social interaction? Okay. Social,
Public transportation, yoga, dance, et cetera, medical,
yeah.
health and wellness.
And
By the
then-
way, number 6, you didn't add families, which I mentioned to Frank.
Do
Yeah, I
you feel
have-
downtown offerings meet the needs of the community? Okay, you want to put families in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that, Jen.
Yeah, but I didn't say it
I didn't have that, but, okay.
And we changed power lines to
Power-
utility.
yeah, So buried utility lines, and we added farmer's market to that list.
That's correct.
And then to 8, we added seafood market. To 9, we added improving traffic flow.
Mhm.
To 10, we changed too much profit for private developers to too much influence for private developers. And where it says too many people, we're doing slash density. I mentioned in number 9, improving traffic flow, did I say that? To number 9, we're adding improving traffic flow, or did I skip that? In number 9, we're adding improving traffic flow.
We'd improve traffic flow. This question, number 10, the first option originally was too many people, and you want to change it to density
Slash density.
Too many people slash density.
slash density.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where there's too much profit, too much influence from private developers. Number
I have-
11, how many stories
We're gonna add 3.5.
should downtown buildings have?
Right, then we're gonna add 3.5, and we're gonna, then we'll do
Give me
another.
1 second on this one.
It's
Hello?
There's gonna be another, this is just to order.
We're not adding 3.5, right? That was
Yes,
the
I'm in a
decision.
meeting, is there something that we can
Sorry,
do this
Rick.
quick?
Don't remember.
Sure. Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay,
What's the decision on 11?
All right, so on number 11, so the question should be, how many stories should downtown buildings have? And then there's no changes, it's just exactly as it was. And then number 12, should there be rental apartments above downtown stores? And then number 13, who should the apartments be for? Under essential workers, we're also adding first responders. And then we're adding to the list young adults, and we're also adding local business employees. And the only other note I have is, we didn't ask a question about special events. And why don't we just say, under goals for revitalization, a goal for downtown revitalization should be increased special events? Right?
Couldn't hurt.
Promoting special events under a goal for downtown revitalization? Can we add that?
Mm-hmm.
More special events? How about that?
Additional?
Yeah, okay. Additional,
You can always just do some kind of special overlay in the downtown that gives you more abilities for special events than the regular code, you know?
okay, so we're adding that, all right.
That was the overlay.
Anything else on this?
If you don't mind, Jay, I just want to go back, because I
Nothing more
like to
than
get
what we
this,
discussed.
I'm sorry,
What we asked for anything.
with everybody's knowledge, I want to send this out tomorrow, because the first listening session is a week from today. So you want to give people, so this is
All right,
general.
before we do that, I just want to make sure we're shutting the book right now on the survey. You're going to explore the bubble, a scannable document?
Yeah.
And we're going to try to put this out in Spanish. Can I ask a question? Should the survey, each question, repeat then in Spanish? It's going to make it so long?
No,
or do you
no, it's
want-
going to be a separate survey.
And we're going to
Usually
send
what we
everybody
do is-
to?
Well, I'm thinking first electronically, because I like the idea of using
The
QR
QR
code.
code.
You'd say,
Why
if
don't
you
we
need
put on
this
that
in-
same sheet of paper that has a
Spanish.
QR code, saying this is a survey if you want,
QR code will take you to a page that says English version, Spanish version. You click on the one that you want, and it'll take you to the survey in the language of your
but
choice.
something should,
That can be done electronically.
But then you're only mailing out an English survey.
Well, that's a
could we
question.
mail something with it where it says the QR code, some Spanish language to obtain the survey in Spanish? But written in
We have to
Spanish?
find some alternative mechanism rather than mailing two
That's
surveys to
what-
every household.
That's what I'm saying, they get only the English version, but they're getting a QR code, and on that thing that explains the QR code,
It'll be in English and Spanish.
language says to obtain this, also use this QR code, or use QR code to take the
I think
survey
that's the way to go.
online in
I
English
have
and
to
Spanish.
just go sit down with the IT people. I don't think that's a problem. I think that's doable. But I'm not gonna pretend I have the expertise to say, yes, it's doable. So I'm gonna go and ask someone who I think does. And then we will look into other ways of disseminating and tallying the survey. I wanted to address a question you raised before, Tommy John, about deciding not to answer a question at all. One survey software that we have used in the past will say, question number 1, 1,500 people took the survey, 1,499 answered this question. 1,500 people took the survey, 50 people answered this question. So the percentage is in a perspective of who, not only the whole survey, but how many people responded to that particular question. And I think that's important data to have, because the percentage number doesn't mean anything if it's 50 people against 1,500 as opposed to 1,400 people against 1,500. And that's the kind of detail I think is important to have.
So can I ask a question on that? If we're only sending it out in English, and there's a very high population of Spanish speakers in Hampton Bays, and it's 8 pages, and it's gonna be mailed, why don't we just mail out a postcard with the QR code?
That's an option.
Because I think people like to have something.
Or you could do the, mail out the QR code and then have the paper copies in the senior centers.
I don't
where
think it's
people
8 pages.
want
I
to
think
be
we're talking
together.
about like an 11 by 17
It's-
sheet.
it's
That's it, 1, 2, 3, 4.
No.
Not in bubble code, Joe, I'm sorry,
Not-
Jane.
and it's done-
I did the first, because I didn't know how to use the software to convert from this to bubble.
I mean, this way we're not preferencing English speakers.
I did quite, these pages 1 and 2, and it turned out to be 5. Those pages 1 and 2 translated to 5 pages.
I mean, most people do have, I guess, the ability to go online, but if we mail them something, like a scanning code,
I just,
They
Frank,
bring
correct
some-
me if I'm wrong, but on
Get some
on the
online.
online survey, you get a lot more data, a lot more ways to obtain that data. Like you were saying, it's just, you can compile it in many different
If you
ways.
guys decide that the survey's gonna go out and it closes on December 15th, you will have the results of the survey December 16th.
Yeah.
well,
That's
online
what-
you could also use photographs too, and have people
Well,
respond
yeah,
to.
But if you're putting the QR code on the survey, you could do the same thing. It
We've
just,
had a, you
No,
know,
I know, that's what I'm
this is a
saying.
judgment call that you guys will have to make, but we've had good success with surveys. And on average, we get 1,000 to 1,500 responses. We could put the outreach, ramp up the outreach effort using something similar to this with the Spanish and English version available online, and let's see what happens.
and you could still require people to give their name on that.
Oh, absolutely, it'll look
It's-
just.
it's
It'll look just
required.
like that. It'll just be so
Right.
much easier to disseminate the information.
Frank?
I'm open to that.
What- When we go through this, I'd like to have palm cards made or some kind of flyer made and distribute them to restaurants, bars,
Well, that's
and
what
other
I'm saying
places
to
so
you.
they can put them in their
Exactly,
menus,
Tommy John.
and we could
Well,
kind
we
of get
could
them
do
around
it-
the communities.
we could just
And
mail-
and
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
long as the
Postcard.
people put their names and email addresses, we will get
We
unique
can mail the
individual
postcard. We can
responses.
look for every different way that we can
Right.
promote the
Thank you, Jay.
availability of
I
the
think that's
survey.
the way to go.
Okay.
And that's it, you know, we're well-oiled in that respect,
Have we ever gone out on the street and gone to restaurants and
That's-
asked the managers to, disseminate these?
We did something like that when we did Riverside.
Mhm.
We had people canvass door to door,
Right.
particularly with non-English speaking members of the
We
community.
brought like an iPad.
And you can
literally
always
to
put on that
people's
postcard,
homes.
if you would like a paper copy of the survey, please call and the number, and they can request one and we can mail it to them.
I kind of like that. So it sort of meets what we could have stacks of these postcards. As long as you can only fill out one
One.
survey,
Just don't
you
put
just
your name.
basically, the postcard's got the QR code and maybe the written website address.
Yep.
And
And the school could
Yeah,
pass them
like
out
I
to
said, we
students.
can
The
make
students
some-
bring-
One
It won't
Spanish.
be this information, but in a 4x8 or 3x5, probably something a little more like a 5x8, which is,
Like we
why
got
don't-
for the community housing.
exactly,
then why don't,
exactly.
then Frank, why don't we include in the survey where it says age group, why don't we do like 0 to 17?
We could do that, I just didn't do it because I don't,
Not somebody
Your
who-
3-year-old got your iPhone.
yeah.
Well, I have a
Maybe you want to-
10-year-old and he sure would love if someone asked him his opinion on things, so I mean.
For me, if you go online and you do the survey online, it takes you to a whole nother level, right? Because you could,
Then we could have one survey that the high school could do too.
Yes.
It's like, if we added that category, then we
and
say,
you
okay.
can put, instead of saying 1-story, 2-story, 3-story, you could put pictures with the check the box. So you see what you're talking about.
Well, you could reconfirm what you've
Well, then
done
you-
already, even, put the same things.
We could
and
have
say,
to
"Did
get
you like this or
additional
not?"
question of which like or dislike, and we could show 4 or 5 different images, and
We already have those images collected.
Yeah,
You could-
I mean, that's what
I would-
going
I would-
online does.
if
that
you-
does,
if-
and that's why I
if-
left that out, because I wanted to just do written, but now,
if the board
I
wants to
just
do
felt
that.
that going online, we were getting a certain sector of the population, but if you do it, if you're mailing out to every household, like please take, here's how you do it, please take the survey, and there's
And if
the-
you need a paper copy, call us, we'll send you
rather than
one.
just putting on our website, take the survey, I feel like we're getting the same people.
Yeah,
But if we mail it out, a postcard, and we hand it out, and here, everybody in Hampton Bays, we want your input.
Yeah.
Use this, take a picture of it, boom,
I
fill out the
think that's the way
survey.
to go, and to the question about adding photographs, my suggestion would be finalize the survey, do the survey as you wish, save the last question, and then at the very end, add a couple of photographs that our representative, Janice has provided me with some already. We found some elsewhere. Streetscape, building facade pictures, sidewalk pictures, and give people 4 choices, which one most closely aligns with your vision of Hampton Bays. You can do 3 or 4 questions, I would say
Include a picture
few.
of Hampton Bays.
Or you can put a picture of Hampton Bays next to a picture of,
Sayville, people keep bringing up Sayville.
people keep bringing up
Rainforest.
Salem.
Hampton.
They don't wanna see any more pictures of Sag Harbor, they don't wanna see any more pictures of the
No,
village.
I mean, they like people do
But
say,
that's
we
the-
can
the
add that.
they do say we'll
listening
never be
session
Sag Harbor.
only.
We don't want it, some people, we don't want to be Sag Harbor. We don't want to be Southampton. And I think what they're saying is that they don't want,
They want their own
stores
What we
with
can do for the
$300
board
sweaters.
is make these corrections that we discussed today. I can add 2 or 3 questions that show images of streetscape, sidewalks, building facades. Those are the 3 sort of major categories, mixed use, heights, and so forth. Give it back to you guys, say, okay, these are fine, then do it electronically using the QR code.
Okay,
Mail it out.
let's look at that. So why don't you take what we got so far, put it together, and let's come up with like a few more questions that are image-based. I'm fine with that.
Well,
So long
we
as they
have
don't-
them from the original one.
We
I
do,
just-
I took them
You
all
also
out.
will have
But-
the
yeah, but I still have-
consultants coming to.
I just did a cut and paste, I've got to reinvent the wheel.
So, tell me, John, I feel like there's stuff that you wanted differently, and you're not satisfied, but are you okay with it?
Okay, I didn't make a list, Jay, but I do think that
And he
we should
checked it
include
twice.
cannabis. I think the question should be put in the front. But I think overall, we're happy with the thing. I'm kind of over here in the meeting. But that's okay.
We're missing
We'll
John.
see. I know.
You think I'm looking too much to the left.
Right.
Sorry.
I think it's a good questionnaire, and I also believe that creating a card where people can go online, we can get more response.
Very,
And I'm assuming that the email is so that we get individual responses, right? We check it
And not
through
somebody
via the
checking
email.
it from
and we
different
use it
computers.
also to send an immediate, as soon as you submit it,
Uh-huh.
you get a confirming email. Thank you for completing the survey, so that the sender knows that it got where they wanted it to go.
So this, question number 2, or question number 1, if you were a resident of Hampton Bays, presumably non-residents could fill this out too.
Absolutely. It's a yes
And we
or
could
no
put them
question.
in a different
It
category.
doesn't, you have to answer it, but if you're not a resident, doesn't preclude you from completing the survey.
Right.
But then we could
So
look
We want to know
But
if
we
we
can
had
say-
1,000 people, 800 of them were Hampton Bays residents, 200 of them were from
And that
somewhere
could be
else.
statistically significant if people from
Absolutely.
outside the district say,
Otherwise,
hey,
are you from Southampton town?
Well, we could cross-tab it and say, among Hampton Bays year-round residents, these are the results. Among Hampton Bays seasonal residents, these are the results. Among people who don't live in Hampton Bays,
You can have,
These are the
yeah,
results.
you can,
Well, it
you
kind
can
of-
start to disaggregate that. That's the value of having a software tool that's already done for you.
it would point
Frank.
to people not living in the hamlet, their desire to have an improved hamlet, they presumably would go there to shop or
You didn't
eat
live
or
there,
Perhaps.
enjoy the
Perhaps.
streetscape.
Right, because people from East Quogue might go to Hampton Bays, or
Mhm.
people from,
Well-
wherever,
Frank.
Tuckahoe might
Yeah.
go to Hampton Bays.
And there's a strong
One-
connection between the communities, so.
One last thing, if you don't mind, just to go back to this focus group meeting. If you flip over the page, and I haven't had a chance even to share this with you, Jay, people could register for any one of the sessions on any given day, but only one. So when they go online, this is kind of small and hard to see, they will see all of the available dates, and the sessions within those dates, 3 each time, 1-hour session, up to 10 people, and it reaches 10, you won't be able to register if it's full. And that data is listed here. And we have asked people not to register for more than one session or more than one date. That's a request, and we're gonna screen those. All the emails will go to Jackie O'Neill's desk, and we'll be able to see, and we will contact the people who've registered for every session, every date.
To confirm.
And to confirm, and tell them that we can't do that because you're precluding other people from participating, and that's not the intent here. We want to be as,
And can we have, I'm just thinking, a couple things would be helpful. Obviously, I want a laptop with GIS.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have a big screen where
IT
we
is
can look at
working on that.
maps.
the
and things
screen
like that.
works, and and we have a laptop that works. We've got to get that software on that laptop,
And
and
there,
the GIS.
you know, there is that, one person who's come to several of the work, listening sessions have been asking for a map, as I've told you, about multifamily housing.
I
We
have-
gave her a
I
map.
gave that to you today, Joe.
Oh, you
It's on
did?
your
But
desk.
all of it's in the GEIS, but the point was, we were told not to present anything, that it was a listening
No, it was
session.
listening,
So
but-
we're happy to give you everything.
Right.
We had- so-
So-
Or
but
you
now
want us
these-
to go, we can come and help
These focus
facilitate
groups
these
are more
groups.
conversations and planning sessions, and, you know, if you wanna come and, you know, I think it's helpful. Obviously, I'm not gonna expect you in all these things, but if you wanna drop in when you can, that's okay too. But I'm just looking for any kind of resources, any kind of large maps that people can draw lines. And, you know, if I have a big table and a big map of downtown Hampton Bays,
We can happily provide you those things.
I would love that. That would be great.
And Ross already generated the map and locations of
So I would literally
multifamily housing.
need a
Hampton
bunch
Bays.
of those. Like, literally for every session, I would need a big map of Hampton Bays.
So you're basically running design charrettes in each one of these,
Yeah,
single-handedly.
well, I want to be able to point out, you know, or people to be able to point out and say, well, you know, okay, where you're thinking about a road from Montauk Highway to Crew Ground Park, where would it go? Where could it go? Or, you know, you say, okay, maybe in this vicinity, and that kind of thing. Or, well, where are
We
you
can do
thinking
that on
of
an
getting
11
from Good Ground Park back to?
Laminate one
Montauk?
and dry erase.
Yeah,
play around
laminate
with
one,
it,
do
yeah.
dry
You
erase.
could do that,
The entire hamlet or just the downtown region that we've defined?
not the entire hamlet,
Well, that's what I'm trying, what
Just
what map do you,
downtown.
just downtown?
but I would
He already
say
has it, I can give
I
you
would
the
go
index
from the
number,
diner
so you can just tell me that.
to.
I would just
Carvel.
pin up a big one and just let people point on it and not draw on it.
I like the idea if you could put up like a plastic sheet over it,
We
that
can
you could dry
laminate
erase
We
it.
can laminate it.
That big,
We-
I don't
How are
know.
you gonna laminate something that big?
Yeah.
We have a laminating machine downstairs in the CRC, depending on how big you want to create it. I think it can do
Pretty big.
36 by 36.
Almost like as big as the table you're at, you know?
We did.
So you're
design
taking this
charrettes
table with you to
last
Hampton
time
Bays?
No.
We've been doing design charrettes since I
Let me
got
ask
here in
them how big a
2003.
Map they can
With
laminate.
This
Hampton
is
Bays.
probably
Right,
have
but
a
if they
10th
can't
one.
laminate it, you could probably put a plastic sheet, a clear plastic sheet.
Do we have that
just on
data?
top of it, lay it
Information?
on top of it, that we could use a dry erase marker to mark it.
Many, many,
You
many,
could do
many.
that.
Okay.
If it can be laminated, that would be
Just
better.
the
What I
people
would,
are different.
if you can't, what I would do is see if we can get a sizable piece of plexiglass so that it weights it down and you can dry erase on top of that.
That's fine too.
Yeah, but
By Thursday.
Not this Thursday. Not today. But next-
thanks for
next
reminding
Thursday-
me, Rick.
Next Thursday is the first one,
Yeah, I know.
so you got a week, Frank.
I was thinking of taking some vacation days.
Well, I can do, in GIS, there's draw tools that I could bring that up, put it on a big screen and sort of draw on it. But if people want to sort of mess with it, I think it would be good to have something where they could grab the marker and say,
You want different colored marking pens for each
Sure.
person, so
How are we going to justify the continuity between the different listening sessions? So we get one group in and they do their thing, and then a week later, or whatever the dates are, we get other groups, other groups, other groups. You're gonna synthesize all the information and kind of
yeah, it's a
bring it-
lot of this is on me to try to establish what, based on all this, where I think there's common ground. And it's not gonna be easy. I mean, I'm gonna do the best I can, and there's gonna be people who say, well, where'd you come up with that? I say, well, you know, to the best of my abilities, based on these conversations, you know, this is where I believe there's consensus, and there's just, these are the gray areas where maybe there's not. I don't know how else to go,
You know,
other than
a
do
way
it.
to, a way to think about doing this, Jay, is having done focus groups in the past, is develop a short questionnaire for the end, 5 questions, and have the, because it's only 10 people.
Exit interview, go ahead, yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
can have the 10 people answer those 4 questions, and then you would have same 4 questions from group 1, same 4 questions from group 2, same 4 questions from, that could be useful data in a focus group, is, you know, what did you learn from today's meeting? What was, what would you have liked to learn that wasn't discussed? You can think of the 4 questions, but 4 simple questions that you're using that same instrument each time.
Did you find this session helpful?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's sort of like you go to a training session, they give you a feedback form at the end of the training session, thinking of it in the same way. That's something to consider,
Do you
because
feel like your thoughts were considered?
it's a useful tool for you as the presenter. See, they may say, well, Jay didn't ask enough questions, or Jay asked too many
Yeah, I
questions.
just don't want to
You
take
might
too much
want those
time.
people to circle their demographics, so you know who was in the listening session, so you can add
Well,
them
we're,
to your
yeah, we're gonna
data.
have a
Yeah,
sign.
I'm
It-
trying.
These are really
Demographics.
fantastic. I think this, you know, gives the community outlets to express themselves. And I mean, it seems like we should have a general larger charrette at the end, or 2.
Yeah, which I think we will.
Which,
Yeah.
right, we get people together, and then we also have people who have attended these, they've attended the listening sessions with you, and then you could direct and, you know, kind of let everyone know what you've heard, and have the people hear you express what they've said, so we're under, you know, a conception of many basic premises in Hampton Bays,
These
and
are-
then we come up with a design, or basic
The
design.
sort of
general
conversations with smaller groups of people, hopefully people will feel more comfortable sharing, but they're not all gonna be the same, they're all gonna be all over the place. Like, some people will be like, I wanna show you something, can we go downtown? Can we take a walk over? You know, okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we could walk over to
Good.
Just pull that
Skidmore's.
up on the GIS. Honestly, by doing it this way, and I just want to say, I appreciate all your efforts. You know, to be able to put yourself out there and really try to absorb this information and bring it back to the board, I think is really important, and I appreciate that as a Hampton-based resident.
Thank you.
So, this is even more detailed for me. I'm actually gonna suggest that some of the, because I talk to people who are not in that room every day. You know, if I'm in the store, there's 12 to 20 people a day that have their own opinions, varying opinions on what needs to be done in Hampton Bays. We've gotten letters from school teachers, we've gotten letters from volunteer firemen. I'm gonna ask some of these groups to come and try to sign up as a group. Like, if you get 10 school teachers who live in Hampton Bays in the same room, you'll find out what the kids are doing and what the kids might like.
a good
I
idea.
think that's a good group. The firemen as a whole, because they're coaching teams and they're running around like crazy, they're still trying to keep their jobs locally. That's a good group, and, some
It's a good
younger
idea.
people.
So maybe we should try to fill those before this goes
Well,
live.
that's what I'm gonna go out and try to
And
suggest when
that,
this
that
comes out.
methodology, Rick,
Yeah.
is exactly what focus groups do. They find a population that they want information from that they're not getting through other mechanisms.
Right.
So it'll be, all insurance brokers, or all, the idea of all teachers, all first responders, all whatever. I think that's an excellent way to go. That will give you some uniformity in a context. This is what I heard from a representative body of,
It's an interesting way to
Of
do it.
teachers.
Right now, it's not set up that way, but I guess if they all sign up for the
You really
same
have 20
session.
people, so it's a statistical sample, so.
well, but
And then, it's also, people have said, well, why don't you do a focus on, like, can we have one meeting just to talk about sewers? Can we have one meeting just to talk about traffic? Can we have one meeting just to talk about whatever, vibrancy? Yeah, we could do that. We could follow, like the idea of this connecting road to the park. Yeah, we could have a meeting just about that, or we can see what sort of comes up at these sessions. So I'm thinking for now, this idea of, let's keep them open-ended, let's have an hour, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
what was.
And yeah, if the group is homogeneous in a particular interest area, That's okay, I don't mind that. If it's all firemen or ambulance people who show up.
I think it's a good idea, because they're underrepresented in the more general.
Yeah, I don't
sessions.
think this process is gonna be over this year, like, we'll get through these 4 dates, and there's still gonna be a lot more to talk about. This is
So-
the whole thing is preliminary, because we've got historical concepts, right? We don't even know if we're gonna rezone, if we do rezone, what it's gonna look like. This is all preliminary before we even get to the conversation, it's zoning.
Well, they're
Changes
going
needed.
to come back next week and tell you at least what they did in the first place, because some board members weren't even here, for the benefit of just a little bit of background in terms of 10 different towns minimum, looking at all different shapes and sizes and trying to come to some collective understanding. Then so far, I've asked them to sketch out at least an as-of-right program. That would be something that someone could apply for. Now, there's multiple different ways
You
that
say
you can.
what might get
Right now,
developed
today.
downtown
So
according to
somebody
zoning?
is just like, well, you can
It's a
figure
sort of
out
a
your zoning all you
theoretical
want. I'm
current
going to
buildup.
the planning board and asking for a permit, an application for a site plan tomorrow. What can they do? So we want to see that.
They're gonna have to
something-
work with you to better understand what the code allows.
Right.
Mhm.
So I've been working with them, and they'll come here and show you what they've done, at least a reasonable expectation of what you can get under current
Current
zoning.
zoning.
What buildings have been developed under current zoning? What's like pre-existing zoning and I'm assuming like Liggett's and the movie theater building were built under zoning. Where
Right,
they had the big parking lots along Main Street.
right.
I'm just trying to think of any other new buildings downtown.
7-Eleven probably is one of the
7-Eleven.
newer zoning.
7-Eleven,
Yeah.
Chase Bank.
The King Cullen Shopping Center was a PDD, so that wasn't
Right.
current zoning.
But that
You,
still doesn't
you know,
exist.
Capital One Bank down the road there.
Right.
Current zoning established in 1972.
Right.
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 So they're gonna just at least look at, basically when anyone looks at what you can do under current zoning, they look for the highest and best use, what you're gonna,
Mhm.
get the most return on your investment from. So they'll sketch out a couple of things.
But
This
co-
shouldn't be construed as, a scare tactic. This is truly like what the zoning code
Right.
would allow
Yeah, I don't
today.
want it to overstate, but there
No,
are some.
but it just should be, just basically what you could do. And then we'll take a look at that. Then they're sort of following along once you come back with some tangible information and say, show us what it looks like with a road in the middle. We all know that at this point, we want a road that goes to Good Ground Park. At least we've been saying this for,
And I think
many,
people
many
seem to like
years.
that idea.
so they can sketch, well, there could be a road here or here. They'll show you some options. That's why like sketching it out with the community, it's easier to just show them sort of what's really possible instead of pie in the sky, We know there's only like 3
Like
locations
moving
the
the
road
post
can go in.
office to the diner.
There's not like infinite possibilities here. There's
Right.
maybe like 3 options.
If-
And honestly, when
That's
you
what we
really
need
look
out
at
there.
it, it's not that big of an area.
You want a diner.
You want
You
that
know?
question?
It's on there.
You want that
Okay.
question on the survey, Cindy?
So they'll follow along.
That
After you
question
come back
is
from this
on the
listening
survey.
sessions and
Should there be a
they'll,
road connecting?
it's an
it?
Oh, no,
iterative
there's
thing,
nothing
and they'll
like
come
that.
back. They'll come back and say, okay, based on everything you've told us, how about this? And you can go, well, this is, good, bad, ugly, not, it's up to, then it's more iterative in that way when you have an architect sort of sketching it for you. And then they've got like 2 kind of primary views that they'll do. When you get there, when you tell them what you want to see.
So a
you can
building like the Liggett's building,
Mhm.
okay, that could be built right now by zoning on the other side of the street,
Pretty much.
pretty much.
Yep,
7-Eleven with a through driveway to Good Ground Park, could that be built?
pretty much.
So that's what I'm trying to tell people, is this is what can be done.
So you're gonna see that
We can do better
images.
than that, and that's our goal, is to try to get something better.
In the
for
end, you'll
downtown
probably
Hampton
get
Bays.
like, okay, this, which is what the current zone allows, or that, which is sort of an iterative thing that everyone contributed to, and you can manipulate how you think is best suited, and then be able to hold them both up and say,
Well, some of
This
that
or that.
downtown is VB, a lot of it, between Good Ground Park, right, and
the whole thing is VB there. yeah.
but, or there's, the whole thing is VB currently?
VB in the section where we're talking about.
Isn't there
Concord
some
to Springville.
currently zoned residential back there too? Or is it all VB?
No, it stops at Springville and into residential
Yeah,
as
it's
west.
sort of, and that's what the initial downtown overlay district had, transition zones to the step down to the residential
The
side.
property by Cemetery Road, that's not, that's zone VB as well currently, or no? I thought that was residential, like where the sewer
Oh,
plant.
where the sewer plant, yeah, that's residential, I'm
That's
sorry.
residential, so
Yes.
some of it's residential,
Just that, I think, really. no.
Formally proposed sewer plant.
formally, yeah.
Well, the
Consider-
private property owner could propose it on their
You could,
own
yeah.
thing, and that was the whole reason why we stepped in and said, let us look at it for the benefit of everyone, not just you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that seems to be a consensus at these listening sessions, is that that's not a good sign.
Sure, I mean, it's constrained and it's just enough for the downtown, but if you were to find another site that was larger and could handle more area, sure,
Right.
that's definitely preferable.
Um,
So this registration for these groups should be up and available tomorrow?
Okay,
So
good.
if there are specific groups that you want to reach out to, I'll confirm that with you,
Okay.
Rick, so they can go online and could register for any of the 4 dates, even.
Yeah, well, these are people who come to me, so I'll reach out to them.
Yeah,
don't
but
have
you
to
want
do
to
any
know
of
that
but yeah.
it's alive and they can actually
Yeah,
do it.
okay.
Yeah.
I like that it goes to 7 too.
And I just ask
that was
that
one of
if
the
you
issues.
guys want to participate at those, you're absolutely welcome. Just coordinate amongst yourselves so we don't have 3 of us. So I'll be at every one, but, you know, just swap around and figure out, just make sure nobody else is coming. All right?
Okay.
That's it on that, right? It's a lot of work. Okay, so that was a conversation scheduled from 10:30
Thank
to
you.
11.
Thank you.
So Janice is usually right on, but this one is a little bit an hour off or so. No, half an hour.
No, it's, we're into exec, but
Yeah, so we were supposed to 11, now it's 12, hour and a half. Okay, so updates.
I don't have anything that can't wait.
Let me see, Janice put some things together for me, so a reminder that Tuesday is Election Day. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. On November 8th, voters will have the ability to also vote, I guess that's Election Day, on the Community Housing Fund proposition. You need to flip your ballot over. All propositions, and I think there's 3 propositions on the ballot. They're all on the reverse side. What else? I had a supervisors and mayors, East End supervisors and mayors meeting yesterday. We were joined by Catherine Rinaldi. She's the interim director for the Long Island Railroad. And we pressed her for the inclusion in Long Island Railroad's capital plan of the sidings. So they do a 5-year capital plan. They're working on it right now. We want that document to show that they plan to build these sections of parallel track out here that would allow for greater frequency for the Southport commuter connection and other times. So get one train on the parallel tracks so that you can have several trains heading east in the morning and several trains heading west in the afternoon without, conflicts. So that's good. That was.
How'd it go?
It's good. She certainly, that she didn't commit to putting it in the capital plan, but she did commit to fully considering it for that capital plan, and she understands that's something that we are watching very carefully,
Good.
and that is our big ask.
There are 3 that currently exist. They don't have the signaling capacity
Right.
when they upgraded the signaling. So,
And I
They're
pledged
there.
that we would work with her in terms of identifying areas for these sightings, so. Let me think of anything else. Most things could probably wait. Tommy John, I think you
nothing
have
that can't wait.
anything that, Rick?
Real quick, Youth Bureau tomorrow night at Southampton's Hampton Coffee from 6 to 8 is an open mic for grades 5 through 12. It's their first time together post-pandemic. So we're hoping it's well attended.
Cindy?
No, I'm good. Wait.
And I'm looking to see if there's anything else I should bring up. We closed on 240 West Montauk Highway. So that's the
Prime care building.
Yeah, it was formerly, I guess, the doctor's office or
Yep, dentist.
dentist. So that's the building that we're, looking toward the trustees occupying a portion of the ground level, the Bay Constables, the back building, and potentially housing and community development upstairs, as well as, some common areas downstairs, maybe a small office downstairs. And I think other than that, I'm good. So this was helpful today. We have some things for executive session. So what we'll do is we'll take a brief, no, we won't have time for a break. We'll go right to executive session. We will have acquisitions, land acquisitions, personnel, confidential legal advice, litigation, contract negotiations. So I will make a motion to end our work session and go to executive session on those items.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are adjourned for all other purposes.